Take two.
Hey, we're heating it up.
On Dark Matter Radio.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. You're listening to Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Dark Matter.
That's the only way my poor little binky brain could handle it.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. Let's keep it cracking. I don't know what to make of that. I think it's rocking. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Fade to Black. The Thursday edition, Bell Gap. Fade to Black Thursday, May 15th, 130 days into the new year. Space Boy. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios in Baking, Burbank, California. Outside today, it was literally hundreds of degrees, frying up everything. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I am your host, Jimmy Church. Let's get this show cracking. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us. And you couldn't hear me right now. I need you to think about that. How you doing? Let's keep it cracking. All right. Today, you ready? I hope you're sitting down. Phone the neighbors, wake the kids. Today, nobody was born and nobody died. Imagine that. I'm not kidding either. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Twitter at JChurchRadio. Don't forget hashtag DMRadioNet. DMRadioNet. Get you into that new chat room we've got. It's called Twitter. I don't know what else to do. You know, there's too much to pay attention to, folks. There's just too much. I miss the old days, 6-8 months ago, when it was just me and a microphone and a guest sitting in front of me and nothing to worry about. Today, it's everything coming at you from all directions, all the time. Tonight's going to be cool. A little bit later, we have Dan Fogler out of New York. He's gonna talk to us about his new movie, Don Peyote. But and then after that, literally, bags are packed by his door at a studio in New York. He's jumping in a cab and heading out to Los Angeles on the red eye. So we're like the last thing, and it's going to be cool. He's out of his mind, and it's going to be great. And it's a pretty cool movie. And then he arrives here in the morning, and then he's doing press all day tomorrow, leading up to the premiere tomorrow night of Don Peyote, where Freeman and the rest of the cast and Dan have a tour bus down in Hollywood. And after the premiere tomorrow, little party action, I'm sure. They're going to head out for a statewide California tour for the movie, and then come back to L.A. on the 24th, and then I think we're going to get Dan and Freeman into the studio here live. And that's the plan. But anyway, so later on tonight, Dan Fogler. Up first, though, we're going to have some Bill Birnes action. We're going to bring in Bill to talk about this Malibu Deep Underwater Base that the team and everybody here, we released it to the world on Tuesday. The discovery was made on Monday. And so the press releases are going out tomorrow. Got a little quick article that's up right now at jimmychurchradio.com. If you haven't heard about it yet, I know it's all over. It's spreading around right now because of the Twitter and Facebook stuff that we did on Tuesday. But we did all of that to timestamp everything, just to let everybody know when and where. And I don't care who, but if they're concerned or if they care, if they want to know, there's a timestamp there, and that's when it was announced. And so then I think probably by the end of the evening tonight, Keith will have it up on Art Bell. Of course, he goes first. He's entitled. And then the wave will hit in the morning. So that's why we're having Bill come on tonight to talk about it. I was talking to Bill earlier this afternoon. You know how it goes with Bill. It's supposed to be a 5-minute phone call. We talked for 2.5 hours. But, he's just as shocked at these photographs as everybody else. So, anyway, I don't know if we're going to get to phone calls tonight with Dan. I would like to, but we're on very limited time, and I can't mess with him and what he has to do in New York to get out of here. So that is that. We're going to have Bill up first. So, I don't know. Maybe we can get some phone calls in between guests. Let's just see how things run during the show. All right, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. That's the email. You know what to do on Twitter, at jchurchradio. Again, I say it every night, but, I got to remind everybody. Plus, we have new listeners, which is this. If you're at Dark Matter Radio right now, listening to the show, and you can hear me, scroll up and click. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, and there's YouTube. Go and click, like, friend, subscribe. Go and do it. And we added another. I don't know what's going on, but overnight, like another 150 subscribers to YouTube. I still can't figure that out. I'm honored. I'm humbled. I don't know, but they're doing it. So, and same thing with Facebook. And, Twitter just kind of chugs along. Twitter's tough, man. Twitter's real tough. All right, so you can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. And, the time is just clicking by. We've got so much to get to tonight. So much. We're going to have Bill at the bottom of the hour at 7:30 and discuss the Malibu base. And then right after that, we'll bring Dan in from New York. Okay, so before we move any more further forward, I've got a couple of emails that have come in just before the show. Here they are. To ask some of the obvious questions, is there any evidence, this is concerning the Malibu base, is there any evidence in addition to the displayed photos? Yes, and if we're going to get to that in just a second. I am assuming there has been no actual exploration of the site. Yes, there has. I assume that there are no pictures of any craft entering or leaving the site. There are hundreds. We've got here probably 15 originals. And Preston Dennett has been investigating this site and Bill Birnes for decades. Tons of evidence. They've just never been able to find it. Everybody knows. I've had on this show in the last 6 months probably 6 researchers all commenting on what has been going on between Catalina and Malibu. A bunch. Tons of stuff coming in and out of the water and photographed all the time and videoed. But they just couldn't find it. We did. This is big stuff. This is explosive. So I'll continue on with the email. I'm just answering questions as we go. Are you suggesting it is a USO UFO base or an American naval base, or are you suggesting some type of cooperation between aliens and the U.S.? Yes, I'm suggesting both. Absolutely suggesting both. There has been rumors about, you have to understand, and this comes in from Lou. So, Lou, you have to understand, there has been so much research that has gone on between Hawthorne, Nevada, China Lake, and access to those naval bases. China Lake is in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Hawthorne is in between Reno and Las Vegas. Why would you have an undersea naval weapons station, warfare center on a small lake in Nevada? Explain that to me, and then we can connect. I'll back off. Unless there's some kind of access to go between there and the coast. Now, I'm not suggesting anything factual here. I'm saying this is the first time we've had any concrete evidence of such. Moving on. In many countries have submarines. Even Vietnam is now purchasing at least one. So would it be difficult for a sub or some private individuals with some simple technology to meander near the location and check it out? No. That is completely... And you can check this out for yourself on any map, let alone Google. That area that we have found the entrance to is off limits. You can't swim, you can't boat, you can't do anything. It's just like Area 51, the underwater version. Right next to it is Port Hueneme, a Marine Naval Air Station. Huge. With a runway and airport, by the way. Next, he says, my vote would be for you and yours not to go with such extravagant claims to avoid losing credibility in the event you are wrong. With the findings that you are correct, inuring to all of your credit. I'm not sure what that word is. With all of your free time on your show, consider asking Bill as to the status of his running for the U.S. Senate from Pennsylvania. I will do just that in 20 minutes. And that comes in from Lou. There's no credibility to be lost. It's called investigating and researching. That's it. And these are extraordinary photographs. Extraordinary. And there's more to come. We have them right now. If you go to jimmychurchradio.com, go ahead and scroll down. And you can go past the article that was released today. It's right there. And then go to the church rant for today. There is a new collection of 9 photographs, a panoramic setup. Dale worked on these all day today. We have some special software that allows us to go underwater and also to measure what is going on. So head over to jimmychurchradio.com and check out those 9 photographs. I will discuss those shortly. Another email came in. Hi, Jimmy. Same thing. Your jimmychurchradio.com website, photos of the Malibu underwater base do not state the source of your 3 photographs. I'll state it right now. I don't really need to because they are Google Earth. It's not Photoshop. This is direct off the web. It's not Photoshop. It's not photographs from somebody else that were sent to us. No, you can go. Well, you need some software. But you can go and look at this yourself. You can look at all the topographic ones. It's right there. I already gave the coordinates. Went out to everybody. Got tons of email on this, supporting this and sending in information. These are extraordinary. So there you go. Okay. All right. Let's, you know what? Before we get to the news, or should I do the news now? I don't really have much to report in the news, actually. One of the, oh, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll go through the news, and then we'll jump straight to Bill Birnes. We'll get the church rant in and out. We'll discuss those 9 photographs that are there. And it's Bill Birnes, Dan Fogler. Tomorrow, Brad Olson. Next week, Jim Mars, Michael Tellinger, and a pretty cool surprise on Thursday night. So with that, this is Fade to Black, the Thursday edition on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'll be back right after this. Don't touch that mouse. We got a busy night, everybody. I hope you enjoy. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Man, Doug can throw down. That's all I got to say. He can spank the plank. My Lord. Every guitar player in the world wishes they had one of those licks. They sit there, they listen to something like that, and they go, man, if I could learn that one lick, my life would be complete. I would be the perfect guitar player. Enough of that. All right. Let's go to Church Rant. This is Fade to Black, the Thursday edition. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome, everybody. And again, indeed, I am humbled. Thank you for listening, everybody around the world. The amount of numbers, everything here has just gone boom, 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 boom in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know what happened, but it's cool. Makes me nervous. Like you're going to wake up. It's all been a dream. But for right now, it's a good ride. Okay, let's go to Church Rant. Email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Tweet. You can tweet. You twits. Tweet at JChurchRadio. Do hashtag DMRadioNet so everything can pop up in front of me. I have a special Twitter box. All right. Church Rant. JimmyChurchRadio.com. Scroll down. There are 9 photographs there of the Malibu Deep Underwater Base. And like I said, we're going to do the announcement. Everything's going out tomorrow. It's going to go around the web. And let everybody know this is what's going on. I want input from everybody. The more that you expose it, the safer you are. And what if it's just all nothing? Well, then you know what? It's a cool place. It's extraordinary. So let's do this. Got a few minutes left before Bill. We're going to be talking about this for the next, the next month. For the next hour. I want to cover all aspects on this. And bringing on Bill, who has investigated not only Catalina, but the underwater UFOs and the USOs and everything that has been going on the coast. Steve Murillo has been doing the same thing. Preston Dennett. All of these researchers, tons, that have been investigating all of this up and down the coast for years, have been waiting for this. It's the Holy Grail. All of the photographs of everything entering and leaving the water, the videotapes, all of the eyewitness testimony. It just goes on and on and on and on. And finally, we have this. So we'll be discussing this with Bill and his knowledge of it. And then we'll, everybody else. We're going to go through the gamut. John Greenwald. Okay, let's go to picture number 1. Church Rant. Now, what Dale did today, and somebody just tweeted, by the way, let me go back here. Somebody just tweeted, "Hey Jimmy, those images are from Google Earth, right? Can they be trusted? How do they do that underwater? We have software." Okay. So, yes, that's where they are from. Can they be trusted? It's Google Earth. When they photograph the front of your house with a car, is it your house or is it somebody else's house? It's yours. It's a photograph of the coast of California. And obviously, the photographs continued. Lou just tweeted, in your to result, benefit, advantage of an individual, i.e., you still get the credit if you three are correct. It's not about that. It's not about credit for me. Don't care. It's about everybody else that's working on it. And that's where the credit goes. I just happen to be the guy in the middle. It's kind of cool. But yes, thank you for that, Lou. I didn't know. Learn something every day. That's why I have you guys out there. Okay, back to what's this? So now we need a version of Bob Lazar from this Marine Air Base. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be next. Absolutely. Okay, back to the pictures. Let's go. Picture number 1. Now, this is from the south looking north. As you can see, that little white line going up this edge, that is the Pacific Coast Highway, otherwise known as PCH. In the background, that tan area up on the top on the land, that is Port Hueneme. That is a Marine base. Immediately to the right at the top of the coastline, that is Point Doom. Very famous spot. Lots of sightings there. Tons. Ronald Reagan. We'll have Bill Birnes on to talk about that in a few minutes. But this is going directly north. It's from the south looking north. Okay? And that's the first shot. If you go to the next picture, just slowly pans around, and there's I have to say, it looks like some kind of wall or berm right in the front, some kind of encasement wall to stop. I mean, that just doesn't look right. It looks artificial. Leading up to the front door. Okay? You go to the next picture number 3, and now we've swung around and we are facing east. It's facing east over Los Angeles. So there's the Naval Air Station. That's the tan spot. Looking at about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, that tan spot right there with the little yellow line going through it, that's a Port Hueneme. And that is a huge Marine Corps, and I think the Navy has something to do with that too. But if you go straight back from this picture to the horizon, that's where I am. That's where I'm sitting right now. And then above the mountain, over those mountains, that's the Mojave Desert. That's where China Lake is. Okay, and if you keep going in that direction, that's where you hit Las Vegas and Hawthorne. Okay, it's in a straight line all the way back. But look at the way that this facility sits in this picture versus its surroundings. Now, we have another close-up as we keep panning through this. And there's also some weird grading work and some construction work that's to the left of this, which is actually to the north. So let's go to picture number 4. Okay. Now, does that look natural sitting there like that? And notice everything is consistent. Nothing goes away. Nothing is enhanced. Nothing is strange. Everything is consistent. Let's go to the next picture. Again, we are slowly moving north. Let's go to the next picture. This one I find really interesting. And the distortion of the columns in the previous picture, that looks like they are at a slight degree, maybe 80 degrees instead of 90 degrees. Now they're getting close. This is like 89 degrees, 88 degrees. They're almost pointing straight up. Again, distortion from the water. But that looks as built and as man-made as anything I've ever seen. Let's go to the next picture. Now look at those pillars. Clearly supporting the roof. And if you look now in this picture, you start to see what looks like there's some kind of grading going on. And it's consistent. Could be pixelation. I don't know. But it's just the way that it looks to me. And we go to the next one. Now look at the pillars. Again, look at the natural surroundings. Look at what's going on in the background. Looks, left and right, fore and aft, everything else. That is strange. There's another side view, and this is from the north looking directly south. I believe that's picture number 9. I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. But truly could be the Holy Grail that all of those researchers have been looking for. The size of this, extraordinary. We have the ability, Dale has the ability to measure everything. The plateau structure is 1.35 miles by 2.45 miles wide. Check this out. It's 6.66 miles from land. That's strange. I'm not going there, so don't worry about it. That's just the number that the program spits out. And the entrance between the support pillars is 2,745 feet wide by 630 feet tall. And to me, and I think that's one of the obvious things, that is a bomb-proof ceiling and roof built in to the structure. In a minute, we'll have Bill Birnes on to talk about this a little bit further. But I want to hear from everybody. I want email. If anybody knows anything, if there's any research that has been done, if there's anything at all, got a quick email. Please note that the bottom 9 photos show the Google info, but not the 3 photos at the top do not. Thanks, Renee. Yeah, that's because they were cropped out and made larger and smaller at the time for processing, for quick downloads and stuff. But we'll have the standard high-res stuff up there with the Google coordinates and everything. We're not hiding anything. There's no big deal. Nobody took these pictures. Google did. So that's the answer to that. All right. What a great show we've got lined up for tonight. Again, tweet at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Before we get to Google Earth, just released this ocean topography last June 13th. J.D. Redding just plateau structure is 1.35 by 2.5 miles wide. Yes. And does that seem really extra large, or does that seem... No, we're talking about nuclear submarines. We're talking about USOs that are passing through there. Possibly, fleets that are protected. I don't know. Oh, Lou just posted. Yesterday's show, old figure for speed of light was 186,281.7 miles per second. That is correct, Lou. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that Marshall got that wrong. All right, email Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Keep the tweets coming. Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com or at JChurchRadio. When I come back, be a little Bill Birnes action. Then Dan Fogler. Tomorrow, Brad Olson. Don't touch that mouse. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us. 1-800-916-6232. That's the number you need to call when you are seeking spiritual enlightenment and searching for your true purpose here on earth. www.lovespellstoday.com. They provide psychic readings, love spells, reversal of spells, custom spells, chakra balancing, energy work. Divine guidance is just one phone call away. Call 1-800-916-6232 for your free psychic reading. I did. And tell them Jimmy sent you.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
My name is Nick Dominguez. Hi, I'm Rex Dominguez, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Jimmy is your preacher.
Amen. This is Toby Kebbell,
You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
KJCR. JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will. On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, the Thursday edition. Bell Gab. That's the way it's going to be for a while. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome, everybody. A couple of quick tweets that have just come in. One of them from Christopher. I've just got to say this out loud. It's hilarious. Agwekli Tepe. Oh, nicely done. Nicely played, Christopher. And consider that stolen. All right. Yeah, this deep underwater Agwekli Tepe is pretty fascinating. And I'd like to welcome to the show right now our good friend, the man himself, Bill Birnes. Bill, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am.
What do you make of all of this, man?
Well, when you look at the three photos, clearly they look artificial. First of all, even if the features themselves didn't look artificial, the difference between the object, whatever that is, well, it's obviously it looks like a cave. The difference between that object cut into the rock as it is, that object, and the surrounding rock is so incredibly great that you could make the argument, incorrectly, of course, that the thing was dropped out of the sky and dropped into the ocean because it's so different from what's around it. But the more conventional explanation would be that somebody made that thing, and somebody made that thing for a reason, and the fact that it's the cave in the side of Point Doom, that naval base, that whole naval that string of bases, right? Port Hueneme
Yep.
and Point Doom, and that whole string of bases, somebody cut that thing into that rock. And that looks like the very famous submarine channels that have been rumored to wind their way from the Pacific Ocean, specifically Santa Monica Bay, but this Pacific Ocean, all the way through to different parts of America, including Area 51, I've heard.
Yeah, you know, and that was one of the points that I was trying to make, and I need to emphasize this to everybody listening and looking at this, because everybody's shocked, and I get that, but this is that holy grail that all researchers, yourself included, that have been looking for decades, because the sightings and that little Catalina triangle, I don't know what else to call it, but you know, between Marina del Rey, Catalina, and where these photographs are taken, Port
Hueneme and Point Doom. So that's at the very tip top of Los Angeles County.
Yes, and these sightings have not only do we have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of eyewitnesses. I mean, it's endless, but we also have hundreds and hundreds of photographs that have been taken of USOs. And videotape, too. You've seen videotape. I've seen you present videotape.
That's right.
Yes, of stuff coming and going from the water off of the coast there. And here it is for the first time for everybody, not only for you and Preston Dennett and Steve Murillo and everybody that, even Ann Druffel. It goes back that far, right. You know. And here it is for the first time. It's almost like a relief, you know, and I hope you feel the same way. It's just like, man, okay, finally something.
Well, the funny part about it is that it for me, these photos look like evidence for another theory, which is the whole theory that the government has a secret underground water tunnel system.
Absolutely.
That they can float submarines into the mainland. They can do all kinds of experiments, sneak the submarines back through the tunnels. And if they were being surveilled, well, now it's obvious what they're looking at. But if they were being surveilled, they wouldn't be spotted. And we saw something of the same kind when we were at Ortec in the Bahamas, that we have a secret, a way of concealing, of making our submarines stealthy in the way they slip in and out of their bases so that once at sea, they can't be tracked as easily.
You know, one of the mentions or one of the things that you were starting to allude to, it's one thing to talk about, Port Hueneme, because we know about that, and it is big, and they have an airstrip there, and, that's a big major facility. But right behind it sits China Lake.
Right.
And China Lake, I've got stats here, and I don't know if you you're aware of China Lake, but I don't know if you're aware of these stats. And I did this on last night's show, but just listen to this. China Lake is 38% of the Navy's worldwide land holdings. Now, take every naval base in the world. China Lake is 38%.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge. It's 1,100,000 acres. It's 4,500 square miles for the Navy in the middle of the desert. So what, and so what better way to connect and to get there than something like this? It would only make sense. And then if you draw a straight line and you continue northeast from there, you go through Area 51 and you wind up in Hawthorne, which is halfway between Reno and Las Vegas. And that is the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in the middle of Nevada, sitting on a tiny little lake. Well, some say it's 100 feet deep. I don't know. But why, you have to have that connected. And the rumors of it being connected have been, how long have you heard this rumor about
I have
tunnels?
heard these rumors since the very beginning of entrance into the world of UFOs. Corso told me about these tunnels. And day after Roswell, he said he'd never seen one. He couldn't absolutely verify their existence. But the stories that the Navy had tunnels through the continent was rife in the Pentagon. And it was a secret, obviously.
But really quick, I've got to read this to you. This came in right before the show, and it just shows you that the people out there listening to the show are on top of their game. But it says, Jimmy, please ask Bill if the status of his running for Senate in Pennsylvania. What's that about?
I had made a comment. Thank you.
And that's from
blogger.
Lou.
That's from what, Lou Sheehan?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lou. And the quick question was, yes, I did write to the local, the Republican Party has its long-term candidate. The guy's been in the Senate for a million years. Wrote to the Democratic Party, and they have not written back, which shows me how enthusiastic they are. But the Pennsylvania state primary election for both parties is this coming Tuesday. So we'll see who and what is running for the state Senate or the state assembly.
Okay.
But yes, I'm considering it.
That's what I was going to say. You didn't answer my question. You didn't answer Lou's question. Okay, so is that what's going on?
I was considering it this year simply because I was really so fed up with the fact that the governor had refused to accept free money for Pennsylvania residents who were in need of health services. That was so dunderheaded. And this is the same person who, when the Jerry Sandusky affair at Penn State had just began to bubble up, he was the attorney general.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked away from this case back in 1998 and allowed this case to fester for the next few years until it became a major scandal, and when it should have been investigated back in 1998. Why? He was running for governor, and nobody wanted to take on Penn State.
That's right. Well, I broke that story, and wow. And I'm not saying, wow, I broke that story. What I mean is when you whip out these facts right now, I had reported on it and found out. And the reason why I'm saying it is this: the more that every single piece of paper that I peeled back, there was some other name underneath it, with somewhere else in the government that knew about it. And then you peeled that paper back, and then it just went further and further and further deep to where this spider web went across the state of Pennsylvania, involving state officials at every level, like you said, from the governor's office all the way down to patrol officers in State College, and everybody in between. Every DA that ever touched it either disappeared and died or dropped the case. Every detective that was involved with it, everybody that was at Penn State, at every single level, all the way to the governor's office. And, I reported on this for months and months, and it was exhausting, to be honest with you, Bill. I couldn't stomach it anymore, and I couldn't concentrate, I guess is the word. There was so much information coming from all angles.
Right. And one of the things that finally broke this open in its own way was when this assistant coach, this former football player assistant coach, saw what was happening and reported it. At that point, a member of the staff had seen it, and it had to go through this chain, a long chain. And again, that chain had to be broken by the media of what Penn State did internally to investigate, and nobody bothered to call the police.
No, and you know what their answer was at that time internally? This was the shocking thing. His name was Mike McCleary, and Mike goes, he calls his wife, he calls his dad. He says, "Man, I just saw some very, very bad things in the shower at Penn State with an 11-year-old boy. And what do I do?" So they all go. The president of Penn State, everybody goes, and they go and sit down with Paterno. And they go, "So what are we going to do about this?" And they go, "Well, you know what? Move his office out of the training facilities, move it across the parking lot, and ban him from taking boys into the shower." That was their answer.
That's right.
That was the end. That's how, and they, and see what goes down in State College. What everybody doesn't understand. We found out later, but that's an isolated little town.
Oh, I've been there. It is. I had a kid go there. It was
isolated,
completely isolated.
Completely.
It's you can't even. I mean, it's even far away from Route 80, which cuts across the top of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and if they don't want media to find out anything, the media is not going to find out, and they managed to keep this quiet for 25 years. And this wasn't something that went down once; it went down dozens and dozens of times.
And the parents kept on complaining. And imagine you're a parent, you're complaining about this thing, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Parents getting advice from detectives or whatever. You know what? Just have your son walk it off. He'll be all right. Let's let this go. He wasn't really hurt that bad. It's not that bad. What? What? It was just shocking to me. So anyway, you're going to run for Senate, or you think you might?
I'm thinking about running for Senate. I really there's a lot that I want to do in Pennsylvania, and I really want to see. I mean, for example, fracking in this state.
Yeah, fracking's big.
The Delaware River, the Allegheny River, but the companies that are doing the fracking not only are in some cases destroying the water and pumping methane gas into the air, but they're not even paying the real cost in terms of dollars in what they're doing. It's like Pennsylvania is like wide open. We should look at what Alaska did with its oil companies and do the same thing in Pennsylvania. So we're not really getting the benefits of mining in Pennsylvania that we should get. That's one thing. And
are you prepared for? And I know you're sort of prepared for this, but are you prepared for all of the disclosure that you have to do? Is your income tax straightened out?
Yeah, well, straight up and prepared for the disclosure.
You've got all of your criminal activity is expunged, and
I managed to get that wiped right off the record.
Okay,
but,
good.
The I don't know what the UFO tag would be.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
you're running on a specific kind of an agenda, a specific platform, and you've got people saying, "Yeah, all they want to do is like get the government to disclose there are UFOs."
Well, you would. Yeah, wow. This is. I want a Bill Birnes for Senate T-shirt, and I'll wear it on my next video, and not a problem. Start getting the. I'll be your West Coast campaign headquarters.
Oh, that's really great.
And,
Good. You can get the folks in Western Pennsylvania from the West Coast.
Hey, I got Kecksburg wrapped up. Okay, so
I'm going to win in Kecksburg.
Yeah, I know you are. Okay, before I let you, I've got another half an hour with you, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
We were talking. We've got 2 or 3 things that I want to get out of the way. Number one, back to this Malibu thing before we let it get away with this. A lot of famous. Hollywood and LA is here, so we have that element of celebrity riding around here, and there have been some celebrity sightings right here at Point Doom, and we were talking about that earlier today. So let's just talk about the big double R first and what he saw, and tell me that story with Phyllis Diller. I think it was Phyllis Diller, right?
It was Lucille Ball.
Same thing.
Same thing, right? Lucille Ball had her own series. Ronald and Nancy Reagan are riding down Pacific Coast Highway, PCH, and they're passing the whole Point Doom fabulous seafood restaurant area, and they see this UFO over the highway, the PCH California 1 highway. And it goes over the highway out into the Pacific and dives into the water off Port Doom. Well, this was the second UFO sighting Ronald Reagan had. The first one was in his governor's plane when he's flying from Los Angeles back to Sacramento, and they saw this UFO, and he told the pilot to follow it. They followed it over the Mojave Desert, where it just shot out of sight. And Reagan was so impressed by this that when he landed in Sacramento, he told the bureau chief, the Sacramento bureau chief for the Wall Street Journal, no less, that he saw a UFO. And well, I'm going to tell Nancy. So that was his reaction to it. And then he saw another one. He and Nancy Reagan were driving towards Hollywood. They were going to the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. It was a birthday party for William Holden. And he told the assembled group in that birthday party, and Lucille Ball, the comedian Lucille Ball, who was attending, wrote that in her autobiography that Ronald Reagan told the story of a UFO over PCH.
And what happened at the party?
Well, it was a party for William Holden. So I don't know, they all went down in a swimming pool face down. But no, at the party, people were talking about this UFO. I mean, just imagine, here it is. Your governor shows up at a Hollywood party talking about a sighting that he had. I think it was before he was governor. A sighting that he had over PCH. I mean, it was, and why?
Yeah, exactly. And at that time, was there a whole lot of? I'm only talking because you're the historian on this, but was there a lot of talk back then about USOs? It's one thing to talk about UFOs, but that must have been pretty fantastical for Ronald to show up at a party and describe something like that.
Well, even back then, back in the 80s, back in the 70s, there were all sorts of UFO sightings off the Pacific coast, the Point Dume area. For example, there's this famous story of a Navy test missile. You talked about the two naval bases there at China Lake and Point Dume.
Right.
That of this Navy test missile that went up, and a UFO approached it, circled the missile. It was disabled and went off course. Was it a demonstration?
Right. And was that the one? Was that the where they actually knocked the warhead off of the missile?
Yeah.
There was a beam, and then I forget who commandeered the film, but it was filmed. And
this was totally yes.
And I need everybody to understand logistically, if you and I, Bill, or people that live here in Southern California, they know exactly where we're talking about. It's a very famous spot and very scenic too. Point Dume, when you're driving up the coast and you wind around and you hit that westward stretch of PCH, as it curves around, and then you head back up north. It's a very beautiful area. And there's a lot of beach traffic and people and these sightings. People are out there with their cameras. They're out there with video. This stuff is seen all the time, and it's photographed all the time, to the point where I don't know if it's that sensational out there for a lot of people, because it.
Well, look what famous TV show is filmed there.
He's famous in Germany. I can't think of his name right now. What's his name?
Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking of not a Baywatch.
Yeah, Baywatch.
But a Baywatch I thought was south near Venice Beach. In fact, I know the very lifeguard stand.
Well, I saw them shoot some of Baywatch at what's that restaurant right there at Sunset in PCH?
Oh, I've been there so many times too.
Yeah, I've eaten there so many times. We should both be shot.
I know.
It's the nicest restaurant.
They have sawdust on the floor.
Yes, sawdust on the floor.
You know what TV show is filmed there?
What?
It's Paradise Cove is the name of it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right there. Yeah.
Rockford Files. That's where Jim Rockford lived.
Absolutely. And so, you and I are trying to describe this to everybody that's listening around the world and around the country that's never been to California. This is a very famous spot. This is, so when we talk about this isn't the swamp in Louisiana with one or two people out there in a year that would cross this spot.
This is
populated and visible.
Well, it's a gorgeous beach, and it's a beautiful, quiet cove because you're sheltered by the points. But and it is a one-day sail trip. I mean, folks in Marina del Rey who needed a nice weekend getaway, instead of going to Catalina Island and fighting for a slip, they would go up the coast. It was a heavy beat, up the coast to Paradise Cove, anchor in Paradise Cove. You have the restaurant, you have the beach, you have a swim ladder, you're all set.
When you were doing your shows, and I remember you doing one specific show about USOs off of Marina del Rey and Catalina. When you're doing that show, what can you tell us about that and the videos that you did see and the eyewitness testimony that you had back then?
We had a number of eyewitnesses who testified, and it was just compelling about Catalina and then all of Santa Monica Bay. First of all, the sheriff's station at Lost Hills. Lost Hills is Malibu County Sheriff. And that sheriff's office has a whole skein of calls from people calling 911 because they're driving up the coast and they see a USO out over Point Dume going into Santa Monica Bay. And you just see these panic calls. This one person we spoke to, I think he was a lawyer, actually told the story of what he saw. And this wasn't a recent sighting. This goes back 40-odd years when he saw this thing. And he said it was close, it was big, it hovered, it was in the water, it was out of the water, and he was so insignificant to it as to be invisible because it was so insouciant the way it moved around regardless of being observed. Then there was the whole story of a bunch of kids who were camping on Catalina Island. Folks who know Catalina Island know it's a wonderful place to camp. And it was camping on Catalina Island, and they actually were met by the presence of ETs from a USO. And it was a chilling experience. This kid, I think there's only a snippet of him on camera, because every time he started to tell the story, he was a child actor. Every time he started to tell the story, he burst out crying.
Wow.
It was that traumatic.
Yeah, Preston Dennett was on the show. I think he interviewed. Yes. Yeah, he went on and interviewed the same. Was that the show with you, with Preston?
Or, yes, Preston was in that episode.
Right.
We were in another episode together too of UFO Files, which was, believe it or not, contained segments that would become UFO hunters. That USO file, the Code Red USOs, something like that.
Well, he came on here and he had a bunch of sketches that the Boy Scouts had made independent of each other of what they had seen and what they saw come out of the water. And, and he's sitting in front of me telling me these stories. And it was, for him, it's one thing to talk about Topanga Canyon and what's been going on out there and over, JPL and the other stuff in Southern California. And also, Arizona, and he's done some a book on New Mexico too as well. But he said out of everything, the one thing for him in this subject that stands out is what's been going on under the water in the coast of California. And, it's so when these, and for you and I, posting these pictures and revealing this on the web is one thing. We get it. But for everybody else out there, this is like a new thing. They don't understand what we have been witnessing out here off of this coast for decades. They don't.
Right. And this is proof, photographic proof, that something is there that would be a haven, a base, a tunnel. Who's it for? The United States Navy submarines? Who's it for? USOs? Are USOs and naval submarines somehow working together? I mean, you can imagine at all these very secret bases, underground, with underground tunnels, with subs moving in and out. What are we doing? What deal have we cut? And what technology are we getting from this collaboration, if such a collaboration exists?
Well, and somebody sent me, well, actually I had a couple of emails saying, Jimmy, is it us? Is it Navy? Is it USO? Or is it both? And I'm here to say both. There's too strange of a connection. For me, China Lake being out there, I don't understand why that would be naval. I mean, the Navy, the Department of the Navy will give their own explanation for that. That's just fine. But there's no, it's a desert. It's a desert. A Navy base in the desert. That doesn't make any sense. So, but it is very close to this entrance, and I see the connection there. And then when you look on a map, and everybody needs to just look at a map and see how everything fits together all the way to Hawthorne. And for that matter, I don't know. It could go across all the way to Philadelphia for all we know.
Well, John Rhodes, who really is he is an expert on what he calls an underground tunnel system. He says, and he was on our show a couple of times, he says that we have the technology and we've had first of all, this is not a bunch of guys, right, wearing loincloths underwater shoveling.
Right.
Okay, let's make that pretty clear, okay? We have technology. Ever since the early 1950s, Bechtel, for example, patented this thing, of drilling machines that are nuclear powered. I mean, nuclear engines can come in basketball-sized packs, and they've been so since the 1950s, that are nuclear powered with a hot nuclear tip, a tip so hot that it could bore through rock And the molten rock that's created, I mean, this is not like a little record needle. This is a huge tip. The molten rock that's created becomes the wall of a tunnel and, of course, hardens and becomes new rock around a tunnel, allowing this machine to go through. And this machine can go underwater. This machine can go on land. This machine is a driller. You've just got to make sure you're drilling in the right place. But this is a driller. And we've had these for over 60 years. Now, I don't know how old these are. I imagine they're pretty old. But imagine if they keep the secrets of what we're doing, what both are doing. In fact, I'm not even sure that we made these, even though we have the technology. What if they were made and then given to us as a part of a deal? Right. And to collaborate. And the number of USO sightings in Santa Monica Bay and the number of visitations in Santa Monica Bay, not just by official sources, not just by professional people like lawyers or kids who are camping on an island, but by boaters out there. There are a number of sightings, and you just don't report them because people will think you're crazy.
Yeah, Steve Murillo, that's how we got into this entire industry. He became the director of MUFON because of the sighting that he had from the roof of his house overlooking Santa Monica Bay.
Right.
It's everywhere. It's absolutely
and believe it or not, that's how MUFON was founded in general. Walt Andrus, who was a friend of mine, founded MUFON, saw a UFO, was in Illinois, and he said, there's no way to investigate this, so let's investigate it. And that's how MUFON came into being.
So what else? I've got a few minutes left with you, Bill, and thank you. It's always fascinating, always fun. What else are you working on? I know you've got a plate in front of you that you're spinning. You've got another one to the right that you're spinning. You've got one to the left that you're spinning. So pick a plate and tell me what you're doing.
Well, first of all, Hearts of Darkness, the book about school shootings and suicidal mass murderers, that came out last week. So we're doing some interviews with it's circulating. It's up there. It's for sale in bookstores and Amazon. And we're still getting feedback from our book Wounded Minds about the military and PSD and combat vets that came out last year. And of course, what we're excited about is Dr. Feelgood, which came out last year, which has really gotten a lot of traction. It's now in Germany, of all places, because Max Jacobson was German. And we have a motion picture deal. And I had to write the screenplay, which I just completed this week. So we'll see what iterations have to be done to complete the screenplay, and then obviously raising money for the motion picture. And I'm working on a book right now about Mickey Rooney.
I want to talk about Mickey Rooney in a second, but just remember, you've got to – I just want to walk on. I just want to walk in the background in the Dr. Feelgood picture. Just walk by. Maybe I could have a tray of pills or something. But, just a walk-on. Can you get me there? Can you get me a walk-on?
If you could wear a maid's costume.
Oh, I would do that.
A lot of pillows about your midriff. You could play Marilyn Monroe's maid that has a walk-on.
I'd shave my legs for that. Absolutely. I'll keep the goatee, though. I think her maid had a goatee. So tell me about okay. You and I were talking earlier today, and I want to start off about Mickey Rooney with this. When he passed away, and I told you the story earlier, but it is very significant. My wife and I were driving in the morning, and we're listening to KFI. We're listening to Bill Handel, and he's talking for about an hour. He went on and on and on about Mickey Rooney and his fantastic life and everything that he did, the women, the money, the drinking, the gambling, and the IRS and the movie company just going, and it's such a fantastic tale. But what Bill didn't do, he didn't reset. He didn't go to Radio 101. He didn't reset what he was talking about. Every time I'm talking about Mickey Rooney, he didn't do that. So he went on for about an hour. And my wife turns to me about halfway through it, and she goes, "Who is he talking about? That is absolutely crazy. Who is he talking about?" And I said, "Mickey Rooney." Mickey Rooney? Really? And it is just for me, and I said this earlier, and I really mean it, his life is right up there with Frank and Elvis, and you could probably throw Dean Martin in as well. Little Mickey Rooney.
Yep, and the big difference, and this is what I'm hoping the book will focus on, is first of all, imagine being in show business for close to a century, and imagine being literally born in the bottom drawer of your mother's wardrobe. When she was in a burlesque show, your mother played a pony, the end pony in a chorus line.
Okay.
And he's born in that drawer. And he's within the 2 years, he's on stage. He's singing.
Now, was that
burlesque.
Okay? I'm going to cut you off. I've heard that story 1,000 times. Is it true? Is it really a true story?
Absolutely true. We interviewed Mickey. I mean, we were fascinated. Because we were interviewing Mickey and a bunch of other stars for the Dr. Feelgood book. So we weren't contemplating a Mickey Rooney biography after his death. We were just getting information about Dr. Feelgood and how the spread of methamphetamines went through Hollywood. Well, he would tell the story. And so here is this character who is in show business because he was in a movie. He filmed a scene in Night at the Museum 3. He was the museum night watchman. He filmed that that scene with Ben Stiller and Dick Van Dyke weeks before he died. Now, he died dead poor between 8 wives, children who fought over his estate. I mean, the millions he was making in the 1930s, mainly the 1930s, and the personal appearances, making $15,000 a week just to travel around Europe.
In 1930 money. 1930 money.
Yeah, this is 1930 money. His movies for MGM, he made 14 or 15 Andy Hardy movies. They made over $100 million in Depression-era money for MGM. The studio loved them. But here's the problem, and Mickey talked about this quite a bit. When he was a product as a kid, of the studio system, by the time he was coming back from, and they did everything, even as he grew up and was chasing women. He was 20, he married Ava Gardner, who was 19, against Louis Mayer's wishes. Even as he was chasing women and gambling and just throwing money away, even so, he was protected by studio PR, protected by one of the studio. Well, he was a hoodlum, but it was a studio private detective. So we interviewed the guy. So he was protected. Now imagine you come back from the war, and you're moving into the 50s. Well, you're not the child star, and the studio system has begun to change. Yes, there are the Louis Mayers and the Sam Goldwyns, and they're doing a lot of the same stuff, but the agencies are really starting to gain power. And managers are starting to gain power. And Mickey Rooney, by the time he's in his 30s, is a dinosaur. So as a tribute to his talent, this person who used to be a lead actor and is doing the same stuff he did when he was a 20-year-old kid, he's now taking on character roles. And he migrates to movies like Pete the Dragon, and he's on Broadway, and he actually wins a Tony, and he's doing a lot of live performances, and he's on television through the 1950s and 60s. He's on television. He's doing these character roles in television. So the fact that at 93 years old, he can handle a motion picture scene with someone like also a veteran, a Dick Van Dyke and a Ben Stiller in the Night of the Museum 3.
Right.
With that cast, albeit in cameos, but with that cast, is really a tribute. And yet, 10 kids, that includes the stepchildren,
right,
all fighting over an estate that's basically gone.
Done. He died. He literally, I've said this so many times. If I'm going to go out, when I go out, really, I want to be spending my last dollar in Vegas and just go out like that. You got to go out like that. And that's the way he literally, and this is the thing, Bill, He did this back in the 30s and 40s when he was just running crazy here in Hollywood. Hollywood was not what it is today. It was a little teeny tiny place with very little population. There was no, we barely had running water. Mulholland hadn't conquered everything. Just go watch Chinatown. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember.
and it was a different place and it was a different world. And so a guy like Mickey, everybody knew what was going on, and he lived it larger than life. One of the stories that went around was that his contract was $12.5 million a year with MGM. $12.5 million of 1940 money. I don't know what that is today, but it's got to be in the neighborhood way north of $100 to $200 million. It's a ton of money. It's got to be 10 times the amount at least.
And if you knew how much of that money wound up at Santa Anita,
right.
That was his home away from
all
home.
of it did. Well,
right.
Most of it.
And he had a business manager. I mean, this is the thing. He left. He came back from the war, and he formed a company called Rooney Inc. And he had this business manager. And the business manager emptied the bank account and split.
Well, that's nothing new.
That's nothing new in Hollywood. And then his kid. And then imagine you're paying alimony payments. Well, I don't know about Ava Gardner.
Right.
But you're paying alimony payments to 8 wives. Maintenance and alimony, child support.
Well, yeah, and you're absolutely right, though. It was a big deal. And the big deal is this. Just imagine if Tom Cruise or John Travolta or any other A-lister, Will Smith, that you can think of, where his business, Will Smith's business manager cleans him out. It was that big, that it's that big of a story, and it's dealing with that kind of money. And he was spending. I would love to. Not only do I want to read the book, but when you get to that point to make, which is, he's making $12.5 million a year, but he's spending, 20, and everybody knew about it. Nobody put the brakes on it because it's like telling Will Smith you can't do this. Well, you're not going to do that. Was he just surrounded with yes men, and that's what was going on?
At that point in his life, he was a kid. By the time he hit the 1950s, he was already getting ugly looks from the mob because he would run up debt on his marker and not pay. And in order to get out from under the squeeze, because he was being squeezed by some heavy hitters, in order to get out from under the squeeze, he would do these personal tours. And these personal tours would bring $5,000, $10,000 a pop in 1950s money. And he was all over television. I mean, when you think that in 1962, he was in Rod Serling's Requiem for a Heavyweight. And that was a serious, dramatic role that he played with Tony Quinn in the lead role. And it was and Jackie Gleason as the trainer. It was a
great movie. Great movie.
It was a really serious role.
Yep.
And I mean, here was Mickey Rooney in that trio. And he was pulling in money, not as much as he did, obviously, in the 30s, but he was pulling in money. All of it was going to pay his debts.
Well, $10,000, $15,000 a day. That's still a lot of bread. That's a lot of bread now. I would take it. Hey,
I mean, you wouldn't turn that down.
A quick email, only you can answer this, just came in. It says, Jimmy, can you ask Bill to mention and talk about the Johnny Carson and his wife, Joanne, seeing UFOs off of their home in Malibu? And I guess Whitley mentioned this?
Yes, Whitley Street. And this was so funny. I'll keep it short, but boy, I could go on for an hour.
Okay.
Whitley heard the story about Johnny Carson. I mean, it's a very well-known story that Johnny and Johanna Carson saw UFOs. But that's only a sliver of the story. Johnny Carson was one of the contributors to the James Randi Foundation. Now, James Randi was not only a magician, he was a debunker. And anybody who knows the history of paranormal in America in the 70s knows this tremendous fight between Randi and Uri Geller.
And
right?
the $1 million foundation that he's got to prove any psychic abilities.
Right.
And, yes.
Well, Johnny Carson, who was a magician, donated to that foundation. Now, as a magician, I think we've talked about this. Science fiction buff, Trekkies and Trekkers,
yes,
and Star Wars people hate ufology, hate it with a passion. UFO people think they're better than the Trekkies and Star Wars people. They'll watch it, but these nuts who dress up like Klingons. So the one community loves this fiction, doesn't want reality. The magicians do not believe, hate with a passion, try to debunk as much as possible the paranormal. Johnny Carson was a magician. He was friends with Randy. He was part of that whole demonstration to prove Uri Geller wrong. And now he's standing there overlooking the bay, seeing UFOs. What was going through his mind? Was he telling himself his entire belief system had to change?
Right.
Because he's looking at these anomalous craft. Or is he busy characterizing it as a United States Navy or Air Force secret weapon?
Huh. Did you ever meet Johnny?
My boat,
before you, I know exactly where you're going with this. And before, I want to hear what you have to say, but I'm going to cut you off only because I have to say this. My wife and I, we were down in Marina Del Rey on our friend's boat. We're cruising around the Christmas parade, right? The lights. What do they call it? The something of lights, right? The parade of lights.
It's the Christmas, the parade of lights.
Parade of lights. So we're cruising, and then we come across this frigging ship, right? And I go, wow. Whose is that? And he goes, oh, man, that's Johnny Carson's. And so now I'm going to let you finish your story. My wife and I stared at that for about 15 minutes, that boat of his.
Well, so our sailboat was, I forget which basin this was in, but our sailboat was really across the basin from Johnny Carson's ship, from Johnny Carson's yacht that occupied the whole portion of the end tie.
Absolutely.
This thing was huge. And the thing that was funny is you would hear these stories. These stories were whatever you do, rob a bank, knock over a gas station, but whatever you do, don't sail your boat close to Johnny Carson's yacht.
That's right.
Don't walk up the gangplank to get a better look at that. Don't do anything. Yacht cleaners boat that size, there were yacht cleaners there every other day. A yacht cleaner that once spoke to Johnny Carson got himself fired.
I believe, and so describe it. Wasn't it? My memory says probably 6 decks, 5 decks, 6 decks, maybe 100 something feet long. You know, I don't know if it was 150, but I don't know. It might have been that big. I'm not. It was huge, though.
It looked like a small ocean liner.
Yeah, like
in fact,
frigate.
It was ocean going.
Yes. Oh, it was ocean going. It could crank around the world a few times and not stop for gas. That thing was humongous, man. It was huge.
Right.
So,
and of course, at the end, he lived on it. I mean, he was always there. I mean, you'd see him sometimes early in the morning. It's very funny. You've been at NBC, so you know the studio.
I used to work there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd see along the dock at a certain point. This was right before he was retiring. See, before the dock, there would be an NBC limo. I mean, I've been in them too. These NBC limos would pick him up at the dock. He would barely set foot on land. He would go down the ladder and into the car. Now, no cars were allowed down that end. His car was. That car was. And it was the strangest existence, as if it was a castle. And the king never dealt with anybody else around the castle. He just was in and out. And that was That was Johnny Carson. But you'd see him in the mornings on the deck sometimes.
You know what's funny is I never met Johnny, but Jay Leno, and I've known him for a long, long time. Not best friends, but I in the music industry, I had bands that were playing on the Tonight Show. It seemed like for a while there, I was there every single week, and Jay is one of the most accessible, nicest guys. Go up to him, talk to him, whatever. And not only that, in our neighborhood here, in the Burbank area, he does nothing but drive around, hang out with his old cars, and he is one of the most approachable people ever. And from what I understand, it's the exact opposite of Carson. And I never met Johnny. I came in right after Johnny left, and that whole warfare went down between him and Letterman, and all of that went down. That's when I started going over and working at the Tonight Show. I never worked for the Tonight Show. I was with the bands that were there. But I can always say that about Jay. I never met Johnny. I never did. I always wanted to. Never did.
Well, folks would see him on his boat, and there would be like this cone of, like this impenetrable shield, a force field around that boat that you could actually feel when he was there on the boat. It was this force field of you do not penetrate this or even attempt to penetrate it.
Wow.
And but it was weird being across the basin from him, because that thing was so big and so beyond any other boat you'd see in them. I mean, there are big boats in the marina.
Yes.
There were big boats in our club. This was beyond a big boat that you'd see in a marina.
Yeah.
This was like an ocean liner.
Yeah, it was twice as big as the biggest boat there, and the biggest boat. And I know we're going on and on about this, but the boat was phenomenal. I'll never forget it. I'm telling you, that parade of lights we're cruising around looking at, everything is nice, and everybody's got their Christmas lights out. You know how it is. It's a great evening, and we're cruising around. We round the corner, and boom. What is this doing here? Oh, my goodness. So, anyway, okay, listen, really quick. Anything else? I have about 20 tweets in a row coming straight at you. Number one, Lou says he's going to be your campaign manager, and everybody can send the cash to Rancho Cucamonga. So, okay. There you go. Let's see. Point Doom. And there is about, I would say here, about 15 pictures were just posted of stuff off of Point Doom in Twitter. And another one showing the boundary area of Port Hueneme and the cutoff area for sailing in that area. And it's the underground base that we're talking about is dead smack in the middle of it. And yeah,
right, and the current going out there. I mean, I've sailed that. Okay, I've sailed in our 38er. We sailed down from the Channel Islands, and I'll tell you, making that pivot around the whole Port Hueneme and Port Doom area, you can sit there in that current all day and not move. If you're in a sailboat, you've got to use your auxiliary to get through.
I think somebody just posted John Rhodes's map, by the way, of underground, the naval underground tunnels. Pretty interesting to look at this too as well. Got to get him on the show. So anyway, Bill,
definitely, he's a great guest.
He is. I've got to get him on the show. And if you and Nancy want me to come over and hang out with you guys, you just let me know. I really appreciate you coming on with such short notice. But I think this is potentially very explosive, and I needed your input.
Well, somebody's going to comment on it, or it's going to just fade away, or they're going to move the whole stupid thing somewhere else. I'm serious. This is what happened to Area 51. As soon as Bob Lazar popped up, they began moving stuff out and going to Utah.
Yeah, somebody actually posted about that earlier, Church. You need to go out and find the Bob Lazar guy that works there and get him on the show. It's funny you say that. It just popped up. And it's kind of feeling similar, too, as well. This is something that is there. We've known about it. But finally, when Lazar surfaced and then it was focused on and talked about, well, then we knew. But, you've got to get it out there in the public. You've got to get people to talk about it. So, well, listen, I've got to go because Dan Fogler has got to catch a plane tonight, so he's got to fly out here to L.A. tomorrow. So I've got to get him on the air.
Okay.
Bill, thank you very much. Always great, and I can't wait to get you back on the show. Say hi to Nancy for me, and if there's anything you guys need, you let me know.
I will. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Have a good evening.
Always the best, Bill. Thank you very much. All right, Bill Birnes. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, we've got to go. We've got to fly. We've got to get Dan Fogler on and out in time. So with that, I'm just going to say this really quick. It's a pleasure. I am humbled with everybody out there listening to this show. Tweet, twit, do whatever you got to do. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. When I come back, Dan Fogler in the house. Phone the neighbors, wake the kids. I'll be back after this.
This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on jimmychurchradio.com.
What's up? My name's Brian Taylor, Ninja Badass Extraordinaire, and this is jimmychurchradio.com.
JJCR in your face.
jimmychurchradio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Yeah. On the Dark Matter Radio Network. The Thursday edition, Bell Gab. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at jchurchradio. Get in on the action. That's our chat. It's our chat room. Is Twitter. All right. Follow us over on YouTube as well. Subscribe. It's KJCR Fade to Black. You know what to do. The links are right there. You're on Dark Matter right now. Just scroll up. The links are right there. All right, let's get it cracking. It is the Thursday edition. It's hot outside. Man, you guys have no idea. Feels like Tucson. Tucson in August. Dan Fogler, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. His life changed drastically after winning a Tony Award for his performance in the Broadway show, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. After winning not only a Tony, but the Lort, Outer Cryptics, Broadway World, and Drama Desk Awards, Fogel found himself very much in demand. His first role in a major motion picture was in School for Scoundrels, starring Billy Bob Thornton and John Heder. Next, he played a lead role in Fanboys opposite Seth Rogen and Kristen Bell before landing the starring role in Balls of Fury, comedy about a ping pong champion. I think Christopher Walken slayed in that as well. Since then, he's played roles in Good Luck Chuck with Jessica Alba and Dane Cook, Kids in America opposite Anna Faris, and he also provides the voice of Yumo for the animated film Horton Hears a Who. In number 13, he plays the famed film director Alfred Hitchcock opposite Ben Kingsley and Ewan McGregor. His current film, Don Peyote, tells the story of Warren Allman, an unemployed stoner who finally finds a purpose in life after an unpleasant encounter with a homeless man preaching the end is near. Fueled by vivid apocalyptic dreams, Warren becomes obsessed with the 2012 doomsday theories and decides to make a documentary on the subject while his fiancée is busy planning their wedding. Currently, they're going to be doing a California bus tour for Don Peyote. Dan will be in Hollywood tomorrow night with Freeman, our friend, at Arena Cinema on Las Palmas, North Las Palmas in Hollywood. I'd like to welcome right now, live from New York, before he catches the red eye to California, I'd like to welcome to the program Dan Fogler. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Chilling. It's very nice out here.
Now, before, Wait till you get to L.A. It's really hot.
Really?
Yeah. It's a monster out there. The last few days, it was weird. Like a week ago, it was 50, and then the next day it was 90, and we've been there ever since.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the microcosm of the weather now.
Yeah, swinging in both directions.
Yeah, it's day to day.
Absolutely. With that, now I want to jump into a couple of things. This is just a free-form conversation and stuff, but with this movie, Don Peyote, as opposed to the stuff that you have done in the past, that are, slapstick funny. I own them. I've seen Balls of Fury many times. I'm an actual ping pong player, by the way. I have a Mark. Nice. Yeah, I have a Mark V Spin Ace somewhere down in the garage. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just getting in touch with my higher self.
We're going to be talking about that in just a second. But with Don Peyote, I've seen the trailers. I know what the movie is about. I've spoken to you about it already, and Freeman and stuff. So there's a bit of a serious side to this too, isn't it? There's a bit of a message.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. The message is, at its core, it's a dark comedy. There are parts that are very dramatic, but at its core, the message is essentially, don't worry. Don't get caught up with fear, because there's so much of it around us, and that if we let it and we bring that home to our loved ones, then that relationship starts to unravel, and then that's just a ripple effect, and you can't begin to try to contribute anything good that will change, the chaos. You'll just add to the chaos. So the message is try to embrace change, and then and only then would you be able to kind of surf with things and be able to affect things positively. That's the kind of the shortest way I can say that. I mean, even shorter, it's it's don't worry, be happy. Essentially, it's really you control your happiness. You control whether you want your whether you get to choose if your ego is bruised, that kind of thing. And I did a lot of research doing this movie. I did a lot of soul searching on my own. Read some Eckhart Tolle books, watched some Deepak Chopra, saw the Dalai Lama. Did a lot of research, introspective research, because when making the film, I was about to get married, and I was, basically took that anxiety and my anxieties about what was going to happen in the future at that time, before 2012. There was just a major frenetic energy going around, and I wanted to capture that moment. And I thought, I myself have a lot of questions that I want to answer if I'm about to become like a husband and a father. And so I answer a lot of life questions, and I thought, I'm going on a journey here. I might as well document it, and that's what the movie became. So there's pieces of like Annie Hall in there, and there's Easy Rider. There's a fun, the marketing. You see pot leaves on the posters, and it's just like, hey, it's Cheech and Chong,
Right.
But I love Cheech and Chong, but it's not. There's a lot more. It's very complex, and I pay homage to a lot of my favorite movies in it. And because the collaboration was so experimental, and everyone got to come and put their stamp on it.
Well, the cast,
there's homages from everybody. So what were you saying, buddy?
The cast is extraordinary, and And when you look at, the obvious names, Anne Hathaway, but Topher Grace and Josh Duhamel and even Wallace Shawn, who we all love, who's probably got one of the best lines in movie history with "It's inconceivable," if you know what I mean. But inconceivable. So
inconceivable.
And so
never get involved with a Sicilian when death is on the line.
And and so when was it easy to get everybody on board? Was it the script? Was it because you're directing?
It was a process. It was a process that was making the project that was put together from. The idea was already set in motion. We were already shooting. The train was already in motion, and the tracks were not laid down, and they would really get laid down by the universe with synchronicities and like favors at the very last minute, which was how this movie was made, and a lot of friends were called. So, I'd say, like someone like Wallace Shawn, I'd say, man, I really want Wallace Shawn to be in the movie, and then I'd like bump into him at an audition, something, and it was that kind of thing. And Anne Hathaway was connected to me because we have the same manager, and she's always been like an angel to me because she gave me my Tony Award, and I just have this relationship with her where, and I was like, do you want to be like this, crazy dream truth agent angel that like comes in to invades my dream, and you get to improvise and be a badass and talk about wild conspiracies. And she dug the idea. She got to improvise and do a bunch of stuff she doesn't get to do. And I think that's why a lot of people joined the party. Josh, I did scenic route with him, and we had a lot of fun making that crazy movie. And I said, we got to like utilize this. We got to use this mohawk. It's too good. So we put him in Don Peyote like shortly after that. So what happened was we shot a lot of the movie. We started editing it, and we didn't have the ending shot yet. And so Josh was a part of the ending. So, we were shooting it as my life was going along with doing other movies and stuff. I was shooting it around stuff. Sorry, there's an airplane flying overhead.
In New York?
In New York, there's an airplane flying over?
Well, that's a good segue, actually. With everything that is involved in the movie with the subject matter, and I'm talking about is there an Illuminati, is there not, who believes, who does not, Hollywood and the way that they deal with all of this subject matter. And obviously 9/11 comes into the picture.
Right.
How do you deal with that? And you've also you live in New York, and so you have your personal experiences with 9/11. So how do you deal with all of that? And if you could, where were you the morning of 9/11, and share that with us too as well?
Wow, yeah. I was that was my introduction to conspiracies. Like I love conspiracies. I love watching Ancient Aliens on History Channel, which has become like a mainstream thing. And I love and I have a graphic novel that, talks about all sorts of conspiracies called Moon Lake. And so I love this. I love the topic. But 9/11 was something in my mind that has a lot of questions that hasn't been answered. That is in my mind a conspiracy that I witnessed, that I felt. Like I woke up, I think I was maybe 16 or 20 blocks away from the thing when it happened. I was over at this girl's house, and we had a fun night, and I was lying there in bed, and I woke up to the first airplane, and the shock of it, the shock wave of it woke me up. I turned on the TV just like everybody else, and like was able to look out the window and see the smoke, and then look on the TV and see, you know, it was just so surreal. I think I sat there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. just glued to. I don't even think I ate. I just sat there with the girl, just in shock, watching television, just 20 blocks away from the thing. So, yeah, that was my introduction to something that didn't look right to me. Like, I saw that, and I had a lot of questions instantly.
Well, when you say questions, you know, what were you asking yourself at that moment?
At the basis level, I saw what happened there as not being possible. It was like what I saw was someone. Let's say like the Twin Towers were like two twin people. Okay. The first one gets shot in the stomach. Okay?
Right.
And it doesn't sit there moaning and groaning for hours, maybe even days even, while doctors are tending to it. It implodes. It crumbles from the head down inward, like something is crushing it from above. Now, what the fuck is that all about? That just doesn't make physical sense to me, as a person or as like viewing it as a building. You know, like you look at a building, it gets hit in the middle. You know, it's not timber immediately. It's not fucking. Just the physics of it doesn't make sense. And a lot of people said, "Oh, that's a controlled demolition." And as I remember, when I was a little kid, I'd watch Sesame Street. And they were teaching me up and down, and there was a construction worker, and he had his little dynamite kit, and they do up and down, and you see the controlled demolition. It would implode, and then they'd reverse it, and they play it over and over again. And that's what it was like watching the news. I was like, what am I fucking watching Sesame Street here?
Right.
This is up and down right now. This is a controlled demolition. So that's at the basest level of my reaction. It was just pure physics in my mind saying, whoa, this does not look right. The mathematics does not look right. So then that started my research into stuff like, you know, other people on the same tip, because it was in my backyard, man. I knew people that died. It was something that happened that I think, you know, a lot of people have questions that have not been answered. And it becomes this red topic, you know, this red button issue. But I think it's just a hint of inside a really dark, you know,
well,
web.
While you were watching it on TV and hearing the reports on TV, and you can look out your window and see stuff, did everything line up? Or
No. Yeah, there were mistakes along the way. You know, they'd announce, oh shit, you know, Building 2 just fell, and you look outside and you're like, no, it hasn't actually. It's right there. What are you talking about? And then that's just like, oh, whoa. You just start to see the seams in the story. You start to see you start to question, like, wait a minute, who gave them that the go ahead to say that? Like,
oh, that's interesting.
What was that chain of command? You know, follow the money. Like, who told that person to fucking do that, to say that?
Right.
Was that just a fuck up?
Right.
That's a big fuck up.
Right. And at that moment, you have to just like question everything, because you're questioning everything all day anyway. And then something like that, it just lays out there and it answers the question for you. And that is the rabbit hole. It's suddenly opened in front of you, and what do? Are you going to go one way with your thoughts, or are you going to go the other way with your thoughts? And which way did you end up going?
Well, that just made me more curious about, just like Warren in the movie, you know, about how all this works. And it started with that movie. And it started with, that's funny how I said 9/11 was a movie. It started with 9/11, and I just started getting into more Oliver Stone stuff looking into JFK, and then making my own thoughts about, even you have Wild Shawn in the movie, and The Princess Bride, which was a huge lesson that I learned as a kid, where what does he do in The Princess Bride? The very first time you see him, you see that he's creating a war out of nothing. He is stealing someone, he's planting some evidence, and it's going to start a war. It's espionage, it's spy work. And I was like, oh my God, like that's the metaphor for what's happening with 9/11, in some perspective. That really led to war, didn't it? Planned war, I don't know, but definitely led to war after that. And so that's what I try to pepper in throughout the movie, throughout Don Peyote. There's a moment in the movie where Jay Baruchel is downloading Warren with all sorts of. We got helicopters now. They're triangulating my spot here. Jay Baruchel is downloading Warren with all this insider conspiracy information, about HARP, about all these these buzzwords. And during the course of his speech to Warren is smoking a joint. The papers are falling apart, and he takes a hit on the joint. He says, "Hey man, sorry, it's falling apart." And Baruchel improvises, "Hey, it's all falling apart. It doesn't matter, what it is. This is us. This joint that's burning on fire, falling apart. That's us, right now." And we have a graphic, Warren's hallucinating throughout the movie, and Warren sees a tiny little airplane, hit the joint, and you hear, sound effect, explosion, and it's subtle. I mean, it was subtle in the editing bay. On the big screen, I think people are going to see it a lot more.
Yeah, well, I saw.
I wanted to call attention to that. I wanted to call attention to the fact that was the tipping point of us really unraveling, losing our youth, and I think that it was a movie in a lot of ways. That it had sound effects,
How did
explosions?
Did you do any sneak previews in New York City proper of Don Peyote?
Yeah, we've had some sneak previews.
How does that?
All of them have been here in New York.
How do those scenes play out with the audience? How do they react to that? I've seen the joint scene that you're talking about.
Yeah,
and it's
people. I haven't. I mean, I've seen comments on the internet from seeing the trailer. I saw one comment where a guy was like, "Whoop!" He doesn't even know what the fucking reference is. He just says, "Oh, it has a 9/11 joke, not for me." But if you knew what the concept was, maybe he would be able to it would be more palatable for him. But everybody else that saw it, that I've screened it with, that see that in the trailer, I'm not sure if it connects with them subliminally, but I think a lot of people say, "Oh my God, that's really cool, special effects or graphic," and I think that there's definitely a fraction of people that are going to be like, up in arms. What the fuck is that?
Right.
But I do it with love. I mean, I really do it because I think the people that, I think that it should be an open investigation. Something happened that hurt a lot of New Yorkers and we were sold a story. And this is not me being super like in the shadows conspiratorial. This is mainstream shit, man.
Right.
You go on Netflix and there's eight different versions of Loose Change now. It's like my father-in-law is like, and my dad, who if I talked about this stuff when 9/11 happened, they would have been like, "Shut the hell up," now, or like bringing up the subject to me. It's catching on.
Well, the whole underground. When I say underground, it's kind of in reference to shows like this and myself. And although I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I always have an open mind, and I always believe we're being lied to, no matter what. So you have to, when you get into anything of this kind of subject matter, you have to listen to both sides, and you have to draw your own conclusions. And with 9/11, I think we all started off one way. Okay, a couple of planes hit the World Trade Centers and brought them down. And that's the first day. But as it starts to unravel and the underground starts to present their side of the case, as crazy as it may sound, everything is on the table. Anything,
right.
and with...
I'm saying I felt it day of. I saw it happen in front of my eyes and on the TV day of, and I said, wait a minute, that does not make sense. That's a controlled demolition.
Right.
In my head, whether I knew the exact catchphrase of it, I just saw, how the hell, that doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense to my eyes. Just on like a real visceral level. And then, yes, looking into these other documentaries of people noticing the same thing and them painting a more specific picture, whether, let's say 50% of it is true, that's fucked up. We were lied to with 50% of it's true.
5%, Dan. 5%
right,
is
sure.
wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so
I always think about. I think it was Letterman, or there was some late night show, and Al Gore was being interviewed, and let's say it was Letterman. Letterman says to him, "So you were vice president. How much did you know about what was going on behind closed doors?" And he goes, instantly, 40%. And then the crowd is like, what the, really? 40? Letterman is taken aback, and he's just like, wait a minute, how much does the president know? Al Gore goes, 50%. And so, what the hell?
Exactly. And what I was last week on the show, one of the points that was brought up, it's very simple. The president or any elected politician, but let's just start at the White House. They come and go every 4 years, 8 years if they're lucky. But everybody behind them is a lifer. They are there after the president leaves office, and they're there before he comes into office. Their agenda continues. Their knowledge continues. Once you leave office, you're done. They don't talk to you anymore. And so while you know what I mean? And while you are in office, you're on a need-to-know basis. And that's it. They have stuff that has been going on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and it's an ongoing program and agenda. And what you need to know about it, you may think you're the leader of the free world, but there are people there after you leave, and they continue with what they were working on before you got there. And that's the way it is, and it's not going to change.
And it's just wag the dog constantly.
Yes, it is wag the dog. It is wag the dog. So after okay, so 9/11 happens, you're scratching your head. And we have a mutual friend that is in the movie, Freeman, great guy who is going to be on the show next week. But
he's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi in the movie.
And did you know of Freeman before 9/11, or is he somebody you bumped into after 9/11?
I found him when I was looking for people to interview. I was looking on the internet, and I was going down the Freemason hole, and I found
that's a deep.
I got into it through like a geomancy. I was like, whoa. I was having acupuncture.
Oh, you went there. You went to geomancy. Okay.
Yeah, I was getting acupuncture and learning about fucking chakras and energy and chi and shit like that. And then I also would watch, History Channel or something and see something on Stonehenge and hear that it's an energy point. And I started thinking about the Earth and the human body in a very similar way, that there are these, channels of energy. And then I started hearing, of all the different ways of harnessing that energy and that just connects to like the pyramids, that's just following that energy trail is that's a rabbit hole in itself.
Right.
That will connect everything, to aliens, to, so that's how I got into it, just thinking at it from it on that level, and Freemasonry and seeing how that, it's all buildings and, it's geometry and it's all connected. It's all ancient knowledge. So I started going down that trail, found Freeman, and I was like, I have to interview this guy. This is fascinating stuff. And then he just became a friend along the way. He just loved that concept of the movie, and he makes several appearances in the movie. And he's going to be on the bus tour, man.
Yeah.
You come on the bus tour? You coming on the West Coast bus tour?
I'll see you tomorrow night, Friday. I would love to. Trust me, I've been on many tours, man. And this one, if I didn't have to do this show every night, I'd be right there with you guys. And let me just say this about Freeman. And when you get into this genre that's out there, some of it can, some of the people can come off a little bit detached. But Freeman is a guy that his feet are firmly on the ground. And I hate to say those words, he's well-spoken. But he is, and he's the exact opposite of what somebody would consider the Mel Gibson conspiracy theory type. That is not what Freeman is about, and that's not where he comes from. And you start to listen to him speak, and I'm sure he had the same impact on you, where it's like, whoa, this guy is smart, and he might be smarter than me. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Dan.
Well, he has definitely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he knows how to figure out the Rubik's Cube,
right?
Because he has definitely, tried to unravel a lot of the symbology in our culture that is pervasive, and just that aspect of it is fascinating. And then the branches of that and the fractal, little pods of information that branch off into every direction, from Hollywood to the Pentagon to aliens, and how they're all connected in mass hypnosis. And I think that when you listen to it, and I don't know if I can get down with everything he says. I'm more fascinated with the symbology and how it's used in our advertising as a form of selling to us and getting in our brains that way. I think that is definitely going on. So maybe everything else he's saying is going on as well. But when I look at the Time Warner symbol and I see the Eye of Horus,
right,
and inside it is like a spinny, hypnotizing little boogie eye, I have to sit there and say, maybe there's something to what Freeman says.
Exactly. And when you watch some of his symbolism videos and the way that he presents it, and then all of a sudden you're driving down the road and you see Taco Bell or you see Chevron or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
You look at everything just a little bit different.
And even if it's just ancient symbols, let's say these advertising guys were geniuses. They went out and they found all these ancient symbols for all these different cultures from the past that were very effective and were worshipped in the past. And then they use it today in their modern technology and the way they sell things. The fact is that they're still using that talisman. So it's like, they have, it is a radio for talking to God. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. It's like these symbols, they're putting the Eye of Horus on the back of the dollar bill. That has a definite, I believe in definitely energy that goes along with these things. That's a powerful talisman, that they're just, hey, that's just our symbol, man. Don't worry about it. It's just fascinating to me.
when you go,
that,
I don't know if you've seen any of. Well, I know that you have, so I'll just bring it up. When you look at a compilation video that somebody has put together of the eye in Hollywood in different scenes in different movies, I don't care if it's The Simpsons or if it's some mainstream huge release. It doesn't matter. It's everywhere. It's in the background. It's in the foreground. It's on shirts. It's on walls. It's on cabs.
Check it out, man. It's in the advertising of Don Peyote. If I could make the poster for this movie, it wouldn't have any of that symbology on it. But because it's filtered through, now whether it's what it is that it's being used in films, and it's being used in advertising. On one level, because yes, they know that it works, and then on another level, like I would say, like maybe for The Simpsons, I don't know, but I would say, oh, they know about it and they're making fun of it, or they know about it and they're so inside that they're winking at it.
Yeah, that they have to use it. And have you ever thought about, and if we're getting into an area that is a bit touchy for you, because I know I know what your gig is, that's
I talk
fine.
about all this stuff all the time. I mean,
okay, well, this is a pretty big show, so let's just go forward. Let's move forward. Do you actually think that in the boardrooms of the possibility of, at some big movie production company, and this show broadcast in Burbank, I mean, I look over, Warner Brothers is right here, and Disney is right here in our front yard of the studio. So there are people in boardrooms sitting around determining if this symbolism is going to be in a movie or in advertising. Is it do you think it's actually discussed out in the open?
I think it's liminal. I think it's subliminal. I think that because to them, it's just advertising. They put that eye of horse in there. They put some crazy in some movie, and you got the red eye with the triangle at the top, the tip of the pyramid back there.
Right.
That's them winking at the Bank of Fidelity.
Right.
That's them saying, "Hey, here's our product placements." Because that's what it is. It's pervasive. Now, in dark corners, are they? I don't know if they're trying to, control the world with, mind control and hypnosis and fist bumping special ways and doing all sorts of shit. But I'm sure they're going, yeah, we got another eye of Horus and X-Men.
That's exactly it. But that's exactly it. When if you and your buddies are watching a music video that you made of your band when you were kids, right? And you put together the stupid music video, and you're watching it with your family, and you're pointing at the screen, going, "Hey, there's that beer can in the background. I put it there intentionally." Whatever, okay. But as adults, these guys definitely are sitting in the audience of a movie doing just that. We got it in there. There it is. It's over there too. I actually think that goes down. And somebody's hitting his buddy sitting next to him. Did you catch it? We got it in there. Isn't that cool? Their little buddy system. And I really believe that. Now,
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Wouldn't we all?
In that meeting?
Yes.
Because until I see it, I don't know if I don't know what the reality is. And even then, I would have to question it. I'm not on the inside. I mean, Freeman's got all the paperwork. He's a Freemason, right? He's able to, I think he could. That's how we got into the Freemason temple. He's got all of he's got the right pedigree, and he's got like the Bible, the Freemason Bible, essentially. He's got a tremendous amount of knowledge about what goes on behind closed doors, but I wonder what he's seen, like what he's really witnessed with his own eyes.
Well, he speaks with conviction, and that's the scary
absolutely,
part. Yes.
Absolutely.
With the Illuminati in general, and it's a curious word, and it's a word that some people don't even like to say out loud. Sometimes I'm nervous even on this show saying it, to be honest with you. And you never know.
Really?
Yeah, you never know who's listening. But
you said it like 5 times already.
Well, and that's a nervous laugh too. You like that? But with it's kind of funny how people are so divided in whether they if they think it's real or not, and then the ones that do speak about it or do believe in it are ones that you would never think their mind would go there. It's really a strange world. And as you jumped into your research for the movie, I know that you stumbled across that very subject. And how did you tackle that, not only for the movie, because I know it's in there, but in your own mind's eye too as well?
How did I tackle bringing subjects up like the Illuminati, like that kind of thing?
And who believes it and who doesn't, and you know,
right.
and how does that change your own thoughts in the subject too as well? And you need to present it
right.
in a way that the movie doesn't come off one side or the other, or
right.
you know.
Let's just say that I'm a person, and I think Warren in the movie is a person that is a seeker of knowledge. And then you have the web, which is this like endless rabbit hole within a rabbit hole of goulashes of amazing stories. And then you get to pick and choose, you know, which one, and one just leads to the other. And you get to choose, you know, what you're going to follow. And I think that hits home with a lot of people. Like everyone from, you know, your grandma to a little kid getting on the internet, you know, yes, they're looking for, you know, Chuck E. Cheese. They're looking for like Icke, you know, innocent stuff. And then you see, you know, the caption on that page is, you know, hundreds of elephants, you know, rampage a village because they're fucking pissed off about the weather. And then you suddenly just start going down that rabbit hole and say, wait, what the hell's going on? And then, you know, I think that's what happens to Warren. I think that's what happened to me. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, man. There's a lot of, you know, just Freeman's, you know, regular, you know, talking points. Just there is a whole plethora of. It's like a science fiction movie, you know. You talk about David Icke, you know. I just try to. I'm a person trying to put puzzles together. I've learned that, you know, science changes every day. So why argue anything?
What,
you know, why sit there going, well, this is how it is in physics. You know, this is how the, you know, how this is, you know, this is how, you know. It's like, no, it's like someone will turn around tomorrow and say, no, asshole, the world is flat. You know,
right?
This is, you know.
You just brought up David Icke. I don't mean to cut you off, but
David Icke. So you have someone like David Icke who talks about the moon. Well, I have this graphic novel, Moon Lake. So I'm fascinated with the moon. I always have been, because I always sit there and I look at the moon and I go, okay, I like how everything's spinning and the sun and everything, but how come the moon is always facing us the same exact way? You know. It just didn't make sense. And I saw, does it make sense to you that the moon always faces you?
Absolutely not. And there's a side of it that we just don't know about. And why
is that? Why doesn't it spin?
And check this out. Check this out, Dan. You and I will never go on the moon. We'll never make that trip. So you and I will never know personally what's on the backside of that moon. We only know what the man tells us is on the other side of that moon. So therefore, we either believe the man or we make up our own stuff and we listen to other people's theories who don't know what's on the other side. They claim to know because they know somebody on the inside. And the reference is David Icke. He was on the show, by the way, Friday. So you are following David Icke. We had him on Friday. And David is a guy that I think cares about the world. He cares about human beings. He cares about us. I think he's got a very big heart, and he's very genuine. It's it's that other percentage, the very small part of David, that 5%, that 10%, that is, you have to really have faith to go there with him. But I think in general, David speaks really good stuff. And
from the heart. But I found what he said was fascinating because about the moon, that it's actually what he talks about it being a battle station. And of course, my love of Star Wars, that just sent me like off, reeling. I'm like, oh my God, was Lucas trying to warn us about shit? Like,
yes,
so everything is. It's like Russian dolls. It's just, it's nonstop. I find that fascinating, and I love the idea that, he talked about ancient Aborigines and how they have their religion and their culture. It talks about how there was a time before the moon, and then a time where the moon came, and there are two species that came out of the moon, and one of the species went into the ocean, and then it's like, what, Atlantis? Like, what's going on here? And then the other species was the reptilians, and they went underground into the earth, and then and then you look at all the artists out there. You look at Lord of the Rings, and you look at all these. You look at Star Wars, and you look at our current loved mythology, and you know that these artists are tapping into the collective, and you know that they're telling stories that are filtered through them, but are definitely about something going on that we don't know about on a just on a layman's level.
Well, you touch upon something that I think it's very near and dear to me, but I think that everybody's starting to grasp onto this, and it pulls back to Hollywood and mass media, where things are presented in a way where it's coming from somewhere. There's a point source of information where all this is coming from. And one guy I'll point to, forget about Kubrick, we can always go there, but Spielberg, and he seems to, now these movies that he is putting out, but it's one thing to have the subject matter, but it's a whole nother thing when you have the reach that he does. So if he is, releasing a movie, you're guaranteed this 100 million people that are going to see this and rewatch it. So the message that is in a movie of his is very specific and thought out. There's a lot of money behind it, and marketing and publicity, and then who it reaches and what is the message. And his message seems to be very consistent. There is something going on, and Hollywood has to the influence, to me, because I live here too as well, the influence comes from somewhere. There's a point source of information. Have you found that same type of information coming back to you in your research?
Right. Well, sure. And I've come across the whole Kubrick thing and how they were approached by the government early on. They liked what Kubrick was doing with 2001, and they wanted to, maybe can you recreate that? That kind of stuff.
Right.
Yes, of course we could talk about that. And we could talk about, I think Spielberg was approached as well. And I think that Now, why are they? Why are that's the question? Like, if the government is taking our special artists aside and saying, "Hey, can you do this for us?" Why are they doing it to lead us in another direction? Are they trying to give us an answer for our, kind of like a Matrix thing where they're trying to give us a nice, holodeck to play on while the real shit's going on? Like,
right?
Like what is the purpose of, or is it like Freeman I think talks about? Is it them just trying to leak the information in a nice way,
warm us up to the
slowly
idea
over time, so we warm up to it until either now then it's is it going to be another way to control us where they put on a big show and we think it's aliens, or is it going to really be aliens? Have they really been dealing with aliens all this time? And then there's a lot of people that say, that, I love the whole David Wilcock's rabbit hole I went down with learning about the UFO chair. I did a story in Moon Lake about it, about, the confiscated UFO chair from the crash site or a crash site, and how they were using it to, they were putting psychics in the chair to open up portals so they can fucking send soldiers through and shit, trying to, reverse engineer the UFO technology.
Man, you really went there. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I fucking, yes. Yeah. I definitely spent a lot of time on the internet watching this stuff because I just found it so fascinating.
Did Freeman know who you were, by the way? When you reached out to him, did he have any clue, or were you using it?
I think he knew me as the Balls of Fury guy, that's for sure.
Okay, so he did know a little bit. I mean, you didn't use like a screen name, Fanboy or something?
No, I was like, hey, I'm making a movie and I want to interview you.
I wanted to back up a little bit. Has anybody approached you from Hollywood and whispered in your ear and said, because I need to say this really quick, Dan, you're going down, you've already gone down the road, but now people are going to see this film. And they're going to go, this is about us. Somebody is speaking up for us. Somebody's standing. This is it. See, and potentially that's what your film was going to represent, is that whole part of this country that needs to get this stuff out in the open and into the mainstream. So now you're suddenly going to be their spokesman, and you know that, and this is where this is going. So has anybody...
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I think that the truth, or some other, I think we need to think outside the box, that's for sure. And I think that there's some questions we got to answer. And hey, I'm not alone. There's some nice Hollywood, people sprinkled in there. I don't even consider myself like really a Hollywood actor. I think I've been in a couple of Hollywood movies, but I'm just doing my thing. And yes, I will. If someone offered me a huge, big budget Hollywood movie, I would do it. And
has anybody approached you?
I think that, right, to answer your question, has anyone approached me
and whispered in your ear and said, "Hey, man, you can't do this," or "This is real"?
Oh, I can't do it. Well, no, yeah, people have said. I think I've done some stuff already in my career where I'm just like, people are like, oh, this guy's a wild card anyway. So I don't give a shit. I really just, I just have this sense of justice that has to be done inside me. My dad used to call me Clarence Darrow. Like I couldn't find, like when I was a kid, like I couldn't let anything go. And 9/11 really stuck with me, and it has obviously made me into kind of like a fact hunter, just trying to put the pieces together about what the hell is really going on in this world, because what we're being presented, I know, is not the, especially when you think about stuff like ayahuasca and that show you beyond the veil, and DMT, and how I just feel like there is a tremendous amount of ancient knowledge that we once had that was taken from us.
I think it's obvious everywhere when you speak like that to society at large. That society at large has to understand one thing, that man has really gotten to where we are basically in the last 100 years, pretty much in the last 100 years. But it took us 5,000 years. I'm talking about from Egypt in the pyramids and ancient Samaria, 3000 BC to now to the year 2000 to get to where we are today. But from that period and before, 2500 BC and before, there's this big, vast openness of nothing. And it seems to me, if the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, we could have done this numerous times, restarted and restarted. History's lost, knowledge is lost, it's found again, it's lost again, it's found again. And everybody needs to open up their mind to that we are not who we seem to be. And when somebody is talking some type of fringe science where orthodox doesn't agree, well, that doesn't mean it's true. And you have to open up your mind and understand that there is probably a lot more there that we need to go and find out. And that's it. And it's okay to question and research, which is what you've been doing for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, especially when you're validated by having 6 different versions of, Loose Change on Netflix, and you go onto the History Channel and they're talking about ancient aliens. Like, it just became so, I felt supported in my research. And I feel like that there's a longing for the population to get some answers, to really, because we're asking on a collective level, we're asking, who am I? Like, we're begging to know, where the fuck, where are we from? And that was on a microcosm. I was asking myself these questions when making the movie. I was turning 33, and I was, having my spiritual kind of awakening, and I really had a lot of questions. Like, I'm about to get married. I'm about to be a father. I'm about to do make this big leap, and I want to be prepared, And I really made me ask a lot of questions about myself, and I think that we're asking that now as a species. Like we're not buying what we're being fed. We need a little bit more information here. And so I think someone like Warren or someone like myself is trying to dig, and then you're finding it's just like I'm finding it's like an endless gobstopper. Like it just it just goes deeper and deeper. And then you form a philosophy which is like, look, anything is possible. That's it.
Well, that's exactly right. And with the one thing that, and I'll speak in an Orwellian sense, in a 1984 sense when I reference them, but what they and them didn't anticipate happening was the internet. Before the internet, you had the library or you had Time magazine coming in your mailbox once a week. But other than that, research was difficult, and everybody was in the status quo, going to work, coming home, watching Walter Cronkite, and going about your business. They didn't anticipate endless knowledge at the speed of light for every man, woman, and child on the planet. And now, if you question something, and if you're motivated, you can go find the answer. And they can't stop it. They can't stop you. They can't stop me. And you know who I'm referring to when I say they. And now it has enabled everybody to step back and able to ask themselves that exact question: what is going on? And when you're fed information, you can go confirm it at the speed of light, whether it's true or not. And that is what is crazy. And I think it is now enabled everybody to ask the question, what's going on? Who are we? Are we alone? Are we not? Have you been lying to me about this? Well, now I can go and find out. And it's out of control. And I think that's what the movie represents.
Have you ever had some kind of out-of-body experience or anything with aliens or psychic, prophetic dreams, like anything like that?
Yeah, well, yes, and the answer is yes. Now, have I been abducted or anything like that? No. Have I seen questionable things in the sky? I have. I've photographed one, and I've seen a couple where I have literally gone, okay, that's friggin' weird. That ain't right. And I've had that. But the one thing that does happen to me quite often is deja vu. And deja vu, no matter what, and it happens to me too often, weekly, sometimes daily basis. Deja vu represents one thing. It's either time travel because you've been there before, that doesn't make sense, or the ability to see in the future is there for all of us. So when somebody claims to be clairvoyant or to speak to somebody else or to have information about the future, I know that I deal with it. So I can never stop somebody and say, you know what, you're full of it. You can't do that because I do it myself. And have you experienced deja vu?
Yes, absolutely. And I always thought that it was, you're just in the same situation, or you dreamed about it or something. I've definitely, when I was a kid, I think I astrally projected more often than not. Right. And I think that a lot of stuff when I was a kid, like lucid dreaming, I definitely, when I was doing this movie and I was having these dreams about apocalyptic dreams, giant waves of destruction, coming down, and then my reaction would be to sit in a meditation pose. And then the wave will come crashing down, and then I wake up. That would be a recurring dream, and that became what maybe my subconscious was telling me was, this is the journey you go on. You're going to be scared shitless of something that's coming, and then you're going to be able to deal with it,
right?
Really through meditation. So, but I couldn't interpret it right away. So I had dreams like that. I have had dreams. There were so many synchronicities on this movie, where I would say, shit, I wish I could interview that person, and I would meet them the next day. Like, that happened so many times in this movie where I was just like, this is ridiculous. Speed Levitch is in the movie. He was in Waking Life, and he kind of coined a phrase, which was, synchronicity as usual. So it just became this, anytime it happened, it was like, synchronicity as usual. It was. So I started believing in kind of the rules of the universe that I had read about in The Alchemist, and I started meditating, and I definitely had an experience where all my chakras were aligned after doing some meditation, and I felt a major connection.
Have you ever seen anything in the sky that you can't explain?
Yeah, definitely. I was on 23rd Street. I used to live down on 23rd Street in Manhattan.
23rd and what?
I don't remember what day it was, but that's right above the Freemason Temple. And I remember looking up in the sky. I was with my girl at the time, and we saw these several tiny white objects kind of flying around each other like a swarm. and very high up in the sky. And I was like, what the hell is that? And a lot of people were looking. I think that's like a lot of people saw that. I saw the same exact thing above the observatory. I was in Los Feliz in
Griffith Park.
Yes, and I saw the very same thing there, which was all these white little guys zipping around each other, very high up in the atmosphere, just above Griffith Park. And a lot of people said, "Oh, we saw that too." And I thought it was interesting because that's the same exact thing I saw in New York. So I don't know what that was about. I once had when I was researching David Wilcock.
Yeah, Wilcock.
He had the whole Edgar Casey thing, and he talked about these dreams that he had where these giant humanoid, like Norwegian-looking guys would bring him up in the mothership and download some pretty significant information to him about the future, about technology, some shit. And he'd wake up and he'd remember and he'd maintain all the knowledge. He'd remember it perfectly, which was like something that happened to Edgar Casey too.
Right.
He would have Atlanteans would come to Edgar Casey, right?
Right.
So then, and Wilcock was supposed to be a reincarnation of Edgar Casey, or some people were saying that. So I had a dream during the course of the making of the movie where I was like in a spaceship, and it was very real. I was with one of these very giant. Now I don't know if it was influenced just from looking at the internet at this stuff, but it was very real to me. I was with this giant, Norwegian-looking guy in these robes, and he's showing me this like very elaborate electronic chalkboard, which has this major equation on it, and he's like, "That's the life equation. Can you memorize that?" And I remember looking at it, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I got it now. Like, I got it. I understand it. It's amazing. It's beautiful." He's like, "Yeah, isn't it beautiful?" I was like, "Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's perfect." And then I was like, "I'm not going to memorize. I can't remember this when I wake up, And then the Norwegian giant started laughing, and then I started laughing, and then I woke up laughing. And of course, that's my version of that dream, Because I retained none of the information, but it was just a hysterical moment with this possible dream alien,
You didn't write it down. You didn't jump on.
I couldn't possibly remember that equation. It was just I'd have to be Einstein. I don't have a photographic memory. I was trying to explain that to the guy. He was like, all right. It was worth a try, So I was like, I don't know if that was actually something that happened. You know what? Oh, check this out. During the course, we have a couple minutes here.
Yeah, we do.
There was this girl named Anya Briggs, who was a psychic, who you should talk to at some point, who opened up some major pathways in my chakras for me with certain crystals. And I say this because I fucking felt something physically happen. I saw shit, and I'll get into it at some other time, but it definitely woke me the hell up as to some of the circuitry that's inside my head and everyone's head as far as the pineal gland goes. And, I saw certain interesting things.
Okay.
Like, the representation of my third eye and shit like that.
Right.
And the way she does this is that she gets signals from, I don't know if it's complete bullshit, but I know that I felt something. So what she does is she talks to an intergalactic council. That there's this intergalactic council on I think it's on one of a higher dimension that talks to her on a telepathic level and uses her as a medium to solve shit. And she does healing, she does all sorts of stuff. But when she's doing this stuff with you, when she's doing a session with you, she will be saying, okay, good. They're saying to me now that, they're very happy. Okay, great. We're opening up certain, we've just jump started your third eye. Okay, they're all applauding. they're cheering now. This is very good. That's the kind of stuff she was saying to me. So, she definitely had a connection to some kind of, council, apparently like the Justice League out in space.
Right.
And I've done, I've read some books, and I've seen it mentioned, this.
The Galactic Federation of Light.
The Galactic Federation, yeah. There's certain, and I definitely did my research on the different kinds of aliens, because that was just a fun rabbit hole to go down, and but also for Moon Lake, for the graphic novel, in the book, it's all about how there are Greys, moon men living on the moon, and they are watching their version of reality TV, which is this crazy shit that happens on Moon Lake on Earth, where they go down and they mess with the inhabitants there, and it's a crossroads for all sorts of conspiracy, Sasquatch, Loch Ness, and the Bermuda Triangle, like everything filters its way through Moon Lake. And, the moon men are trying to get a foothold on the rest of the Earth in order to take it over. And maybe our ancestry has a lot to do with them, because they're trying to perpetuate their species. And I've seen this, this is the ancient Sumerian, concept. And so, I try to put all those influences in the Moon Lake books.
When you were growing up, did your parents influence you at all? Was your family straight and narrow, or did this kind of conversation come up as a kid?
I was definitely a kid. Yeah, I mean, they were pretty straight-laced. I was often the black sheep of the family, kind of coming up with new paths to go down sometimes. But my mother tells the story about when I was a kid, and I don't know if I had seen Superman yet, but I think I was 5, and she said I was being crazy, and she said, "Where the hell did you come from?" And I had this whole elaborate story for her where I said, "I come from Kuziak," that I had parents on another planet who sent me here, and they put me in a microscopic ship, and I flew into your mouth while you were sleeping, and then, I came out later. And she was like amazed at this crazy story I told her. And then I look into some of the research I did about star children and star seeds and people who were put on this earth who are artists and, wild and wacky, people, kind of a category that I fall in, who are there to wake other people up through their art or through, and I say, okay, I kind of fall in that category. I was born in the right time, so maybe, when I was a kid, like I said, I was connected to, I think all kids are connected to more of the spectrum than we are when we're adults.
Well, I bring that up because did you have any idea when you're young and, thinking these thoughts, but did you want to be an actor? Did you want to be a director? Did you want to go to Hollywood, or did you have other
when I was
in
a
mind?
kid, I wanted to, I used to make a joke. I used to say, like, because I've always been kind of like a stout, chunky little kid, so I'd be like, what would get the laugh? I'd be like, yeah, I want to go into ballet, and I always get the laugh, But I really, everyone knew that I was going to be some kind of performer or some kind of stand-up or, comedian. I at a very, very, very young age, I was flipping around, and my older brother, was like, my older brother was very straight-laced, and when I came around, I was definitely like a whirling dervish,
Right. Well, Listen, thank you for hanging out for a little bit past. I know that
Sure, yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow night in Hollywood. Now, for everybody listening right now, it's tomorrow night, Friday, May 16th at Arena Cinema, which is right in the middle of Hollywood and Highland. It's on Las Palmas. It's 1625 North Las Palmas. And I used to live across the street from the theater and lived right up the street. And I believe Bordner's is right there. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. If you don't know Hollywood, then you don't know Bordner. Bordner's is a famous bar there.
Oh, okay.
That it's a shining light now, but back then, it was a dark part of Hollywood. But anyway, so I'll see you tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it. Now, as soon as we wrap the show tomorrow night, I'm jumping in the car and I'll come down and hang out with you guys, you and Freeman tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, is Wallace going to be there?
No, he's going to be in New York.
Oh, he's going to be in New York. Who else is going to be?
Yeah, we might have some interesting people show up. Definitely, I think I'll keep it a secret, but we'll definitely have some fun people show up.
Okay, well,
we got Vision Fest tonight, and then I'm coming out to LA, and it opens in select theaters all across from New York to LA and a lot of places in between on the 16th. And then we go on the bus tour, which is from the 17th till the 24th, ending up back in LA for some kind of crazy Cheech and Chong event.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we'll just got to get all that information out there. Oh, and it's on VOD and iTunes right now.
Yeah, all the links are up on the website right now. So
okay, great.
All the information's there. The bus tour is there. And again, we'll see you guys when you get back off of the bus tour. And then we'll probably get you and Freeman here in the studio, and we'll find out what kind of crazy stuff went on in Oakland.
Nice.
And San Luis, you're going to all the right spots, Big Sur, and it's going to be interesting. And I know you're going to have some stories to tell. But good luck with the movie, and I'll talk to you. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night, and then we'll pick it up on the 24th. Dan, thank you for coming on. It was a great conversation.
All right, brother. Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
That was Dan Fogler. Thank you, Dan. See you tomorrow night. Arena Cinema in Hollywood. Everybody, just go look for the tour bus. Tomorrow night, Friday. It's going to be great. I'm going to be there after the show. Going to jump in the car, 10 o'clock, heading to Hollywood. Hang out. But go tomorrow night, watch the movie, hang out. They're going to have a tour bus there. Cast members. It's a Hollywood premiere. Go check it out. All right. Tomorrow night, Brad Olson. Next week, Jim Mars, Michael Tellinger. Thursday night, I think we're going to have Steve Allen with the Stevensville Lights. No connection to Stevensville. This is the Dark Matter Radio Network, the Thursday edition. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be back right after this. Do not touch that mouse.
La Crescenta, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Jimmy Church.
My name is Alan, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
He's always giving it to you straight.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris.
What up? This is Kyle Manson, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio, The Revolution.
Wow. My brain hurts. Fade to black. Oh, man. That wore me out. Yeah, tomorrow night. One of the things, it was mentioned a couple of times this week, and about having people from the entertainment industry and some other stuff. So that's why I didn't announce this until today, or technically yesterday, but we kept it off the website because I wanted to have that type of perspective on this show, somebody completely outside of us, and how that is perceived today, in the status quo, the mainstream. And Dan, I've got a couple of things I want to comment really quick before I let this interview get away from my brain. But having somebody like Dan is, he's right there in Hollywood. He's really great movies and a really stellar career, but he's putting it all out there right now. And you've just heard, him comment on everything that we talk about on this show. He knows what he is talking about. He brings up Icke and Wilcock, the Galactic Federation, and Freemasons, and the Illuminati, and abductions, and deja vu, and communication, and lucid dreaming, and UFOs, and Sumerians. And he's one of us. I wanted to expand, it's one of the things, it's the good and the bad of doing interviews like that. You forget about things, but he's quickly going to turn into a spokesperson for us. Think about the press junket and the answers to questions that he's going to have to give for all of us. And I again, thank you, Dan, for that. I'm excited about tomorrow night. The movie is great. I think we have the trailer up at jimmychurchradio.com. So if you want to go check out the trailer to the movie, you can go over there. It should be on the front page. The bus tour, we will get that up there. They just got us the graphics to that from the movie company. So we've got that. We'll get that up there. But anyway. Okay, here's our first contest. How many F-bombs did he drop? Oh, my goodness. And, I was talking to Dan earlier today in the conversation, and I didn't say anything to him about it, but I'm just like, man, I wonder where he's going to go with the language tonight. But, it's just him. He's a stand-up comic. He's an actor, and he's a free thinker, and that's just the way that he talks. And I'm not going to have him, I didn't want to mention anything to him because I don't want him to think about what he is saying. I just wanted him to speak. And that's what we got tonight. And that was about as free speech as you're going to get from anybody in Hollywood. You think about Shirley MacLaine or things like that. Well, he's from our generation. Speaking like that and knowledgeable, and he really knows what he's talking about. And with that knowledge, after 9/11, he went and made a movie about it. And I cannot wait. I hope the movie is super successful. When you look at the trailer, and I invite everybody, just go over to Jimmy Church Radio right now or after the program tonight and go watch the trailer. It's extraordinary. There's a couple of trailers out there. There's one official trailer. You can check that out. I think that's the one that we have up on the site. But there's another trailer that was that leaked out that wasn't the final version, and it's really long and it has extended scenes in it, and it's really cool. So you can go and seek and find that one officially. We're going to stay on the official side of the fence tonight with the official trailer. But anyway. And he mentioned that life equation in his dream. How cool was that? I need to dig a little deeper. I want him to come back on the show and talk about that life equation and see if he can jot down maybe what he saw and or pieces of it. Pretty cool. Brought up Anya Briggs. Oh man, chakras, crystals. Man, left nothing out. And that was a long interview. And my brain hurts, so I'll make my notes tomorrow. Got a bunch of email that came in. Let me get back to some of this. And I knew that, by the way, he had texted during the interview that his car was there. He had to go. And so that's why we buttoned it up as quick as we did. But I kept him as long as I could. Now he's on his way here. So there you go. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Jimmy, this is from Charles. How deep is the ocean at the entrance of the floor, or at the floor of the entrance with Malibu? How deep is the water at the plateau surface? We are looking into that now. It's funny that you say that, because we are working on it. And he goes on to say, Clive Cussler wrote of an underground river, brings up Clive Cussler, one of my favorites, that became a military passage. I always thought that a huge man-made lakes of TVA are also accessible to subs. He's talking about the Tennessee Valley Authority. True mobile launch sites. And then he says, tell Bill I said hello. Sorry about that, Charles. Came in a little bit late. But yeah, we are looking at the depth of everything in front right now. Let's see what else. I'm just going right up the line here. Hi, Jimmy. I'm a fairly new listener to the show, and listening to tonight's show made me open up Google Maps on my smartphone and look up and down the Pacific coast of the U.S. and Mexico. I was stunned to find just west of the Isla Cedros, off the coast of Baja California, Mexico, just west of Guerrero Negro, strange, massive, tunnel-like, tube-like structures and unnatural type objects near these tunnels. Take a look, and I hope, Dale, you're listening now, too, and Maxwell, I'm going to go do this myself. Take a look, as it may be something, or maybe not, but it's worth a look. It's definitely weird and stranger looking. Maybe it's connected to the underwater base you have been talking about. And that came in from Ryan. I will look into that. Thank you, Ryan. This came in from JC. I am listening to you and Bill, and I'm on Google Maps looking around when I spot off the Western Australian coast images right where they suspect flight MH370 went down. It's looking like Google is searching for the airliner as well and uploading photos in the area. Very odd. Regards, JC from Perth, Western Australia. Yes, JC, we have noticed the same thing. And your email is about the 50th on this subject that has come in over the last few days. That there seems to be a lot of photography by Google being posted, and fresh, like by the hour. And I totally agree. I've gotten so much email about that. And has anybody else out there noticed? Okay, let's see. Jimmy's versatile multiverse. I love that you can talk to UFO, conspiracies, paranormal with creative types and non-scientists. I also talk Kardashian-type social quirks with ufologists, both in the same night, and it's all interesting and entertaining. You are the latter-day Larry King. I'm not going that far, but I did tell my Larry King story a couple of weeks ago. This comes in from Brad. Brad, last one was from Renee. Hey, Jimmy, the NSA recorded your show. The NSA recorded your show. The content has been sent to Brookings. The report is being considered by MJ-12 while DARPA is developing plans to electronically shut you down. All the while, the Illuminati are targeting you. Don't visit any national parks, please. That was sent from his iPhone. Thank you, Brad. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, it was a fun night tonight. And please, I need somebody out there to count the F-bombs and send it in, and we will send you. We've got a couple of DVDs. We've got some stuff lying around here. Plenty of stuff in the gift drawer. Okay, so who can count the F-bombs up? Just the F-bombs. Just the F-bombs. Send them in. Last but not least, Jimmy, the esoteric creativity of Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg. In terms of sheer volume, they can't compare with the X-Files writer, director, producer Chris Carter, who cranked out 26 brilliant one-hour episodes every year for 9 years, many of which explored subjects that didn't become common knowledge until after their air dates. Respectfully, Renee. I would love for you to listen to. I would love to listen to Chris Carter as your guest. Yes, we are working on it, and absolutely. One of the things I'll comment on this actually a little briefly because we got to roll. But X-Files was one of those shows that I didn't get hip to, by the way, till about the second or third season. And the reason why I didn't want to get hip to it, everybody would, it was one of those water cooler mornings every day after the X-Files, everybody get together and talk about it. And I didn't want to become part of that mainstream water cooler X-Files next day discussion guy. I didn't want to do it. So I rebelled. I regret it now. A couple of years, maybe 3 years into X-Files, I got into it, and I was like, oh, man, this is just brilliant. So I did manage to go back and get the DVD collection and start from episode 1 and work my way through. But X-Files to me, and I know Chris Carter's a very creative guy. I get that. And he was very courageous, and I get that part too. But there was something to the X-Files for me. I just think Chris turned into a disinfo guy, or an info guy. I just feel he had some inside knowledge somewhere about how this was really being handled and how it went down and is going down. And that's how I really feel about Chris Carter. I think we can get him on this show. We do have some connections, and I think that is something we need to look into. And now, in the last couple of minutes, I was just sent some info about something that was posted on BellGab. So I read it during the commercial break that just happened. And there's a post there from Duke about Rendlesham and Jim Peniston and the other guests that were on the show about Rendlesham over the last few weeks. And he commented that I had said during the show and asked Jim if he would be willing to sit down with, in a round table atmosphere with everybody else and hash this thing out and let's talk about what happened in the woods. And I think, I'm glad that it was recognized and commented on because I think that would be very important. I really, really do. And I think it's something that needs to be pursued. And one of Duke's comments was, Jimmy, everybody there, you have the ability to put this together. And I know that I do, and I know that I should. And over the last few weeks, I've talked to everybody, everybody that I can get involved, very directly on this. And yes, and one of the things that had come out because we put those shows so closely together is that they're not getting along. And I don't know why. Received some email about it, and it seems a little bit funky. And I don't know what the agenda is. I really don't. I think everybody's telling the truth as they know it. But there's something being held back. And I agree. And I think once you listen to those shows back to back, that close together, like all of you have, I think it's become very apparent that something is going on. And I don't know what it is. And I would love to be able to get all of those guys together in the same room to discuss it. Duke says, videotape it. Get it all out there. Put it straight out. All right. Tomorrow night's Brad Olson. It's going to be a really good show. So tomorrow night, Brad Olson. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Spooky South Coast with your host, Tim Weisberg. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. Announcers are Steve Harder and Mark D. Kovar. Music is this guy, Doug Aldrich. Show intro performed by Space Boy. Good job. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR, for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great Friday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.